The moment just keeps escalating. Kaiser and Kellyan are already clashing mid-air, throwing out raw energy like two old rivals who never really settled their argument properly. Kaiser basically snaps at him first, annoyed that Kellyan just barged in like he owns the place. Kellyan doesn't hold back either, he fires right back, clearly just as irritated, calling Kaiser out with the same level of hostility. Their energy alone is causing chaos around them. One of the rabbits nearby almost gets caught in the blast, and you can feel how dangerous it's getting because another rabbit urgently tells Sejun to take cover. But Sejun doesn't move. He's just staring at his field, the one thing he actually cares about right now, and you can tell he's holding himself back from snapping. Meanwhile, the argument between the dragons somehow gets even more personal. Kellyan starts complaining mid-fight that because of Kaiser, he couldn't even eat properly for a while, which is such a random thing to bring up in the middle of a life-threatening battle. And Kaiser immediately fires back, offended, saying Kellyan had no right to steal his food in the first place, especially since he was saving it for a ridiculously specific milestone birthday. Kellyan doesn't accept that excuse at all and counters by pointing out that even if he did take the food, that doesn't justify Kaiser knocking his teeth out. And the way they're arguing, it honestly sounds less like ancient dragons fighting and more like two people still salty over something that happened ages ago. Right in the middle of all this, Sejun finally steps in. He climbs up onto a rock, one that's covered in glowing, ancient symbols, and positions himself there while two rabbits push it slightly forward, almost like they're helping him take center stage. Then he calls out to both of them, telling them to calm down. That actually gets their attention. Both dragons pause just enough to look at him, confused that he even dared to interrupt. Sejun, standing there on what's clearly not an ordinary object, points at them and calls out how childish they're being, especially calling out Kaiser directly, which catches him off guard. Kaiser tries to respond, a bit flustered, like he didn't expect to be scolded in the middle of a fight. Kellyan, on the other hand, notices something else entirely. His attention shifts to what Sejun is standing on, and he immediately recognizes it as something sacred, something tied to a creator-level existence. That realization flips a switch, and now he's angry for a different reason. He starts accusing Sejun of disrespecting something divine just by standing on it. Sejun doesn't back down though. He straight up tells him that this is the only place he can stand without getting crushed by their overwhelming aura, and if they don't stop, he'll take action, specifically warning them about banishment. That word hits differently. Kellyan's expression changes, and for a moment he pauses, almost processing it. Then his pride kicks back in, and he responds with contempt, calling Sejun insignificant before charging up a beam attack right at him. The attack fires instantly. But before it can hit, Kaiser reacts without hesitation. He shoves Kellyan's attack off course, deflecting it just enough so it misses Sejun. So technically, Sejun is safe. But that's not what bothers him. What actually breaks him a little inside is seeing his field take even more damage from the redirected attack. You can feel it, he's less concerned about almost dying and more about his crops getting destroyed. Kaiser immediately goes back at Kellyan, physically pushing his head aside and yelling at him, clearly fed up now. Kellyan just scoffs and escalates things further, declaring that he'll turn the entire Black Tower into a wasteland. And that's the exact moment Sejun changes. Up until now, he was trying to hold things together. But hearing that, seeing his field getting ruined, his expression just goes completely still, cold, quiet, and done. Then he calmly says one thing, prepare for banishment. Right after that, a magic circle appears beneath Kellyan's feet. It activates instantly, catching him completely off guard. His reaction shifts from anger to confusion, then quickly into panic as he realizes something is actually happening to him. Sejun stands there, one hand gripping his hat, the other glowing faintly with energy, and calls out to Aileen. On her side, she's casually eating Blue Moon tomatoes while the system notifies her that an illegal dragon soul has been detected. She analyzes it and realizes that what's here isn't Kellyan's full self, but about 30% of his soul attached to the statue. And if Sejun goes through with this banishment, that portion will be completely destroyed. Instead of stopping him, she gives him full authority to decide. The system then presents Sejun with the choice, banish or not. Kellyan, now fully aware of the situation, panics. He finally connects the dots and realizes Sejun isn't just some random human, he's actually an intermediate administrator. That realization shocks him even more than the banishment itself. He immediately turns to Kaiser, almost accusing him, questioning how he could entrust something like tower administration to someone he still sees as weak. Kaiser, instead of defending himself seriously, just laughs it off and mocks Kellyan for the situation he's in. Then he physically starts forcing Kellyan deeper into the banishment circle, making the whole thing even more humiliating by pointing out that he's about to lose part of his soul to someone he just insulted. Kellyan struggles, clearly panicking now, while Kaiser tells Sejun to hurry up and finish it. But Sejun doesn't rush. Instead, he speaks calmly. He tells Kellyan that he could erase that part of his soul right now, but offers a condition. If Kellyan promises not to harm him or his companions, and agrees to compensate for the damage, he'll stop the banishment. Behind Sejun, the rabbits are peeking out nervously, watching everything unfold, clearly amazed at what's happening. Kellyan hesitates, clearly not liking this at all. But with no real options left, he gives in. He agrees, though not very gracefully, still sounding annoyed even while surrendering. And Kaiser immediately corrects that attitude. He smacks Kellyan and tells him to show proper respect, reminding him, very clearly, that he's speaking to the intermediate administrator of the Black Tower, Park Sejun. Right after everything settles, Sejun finalizes things properly. He and Kellyan complete the agreement, and once Sejun confirms it, the contract itself dissolves into the tower like it's been absorbed into the system. It's quiet for a second after that, like everything just clicked into place. Kaiser immediately reacts with a dismissive snort, basically telling Kellyan he got off easy this time. Kellyan doesn't argue back, he just clicks his tongue, clearly annoyed but choosing not to push it further now that things are settled. Sejun steps in again before anything can restart. He calmly tells Kaiser to stop there too, acknowledging that the two of them clearly have a long history, but asking them not to cause more trouble. It's not dramatic, it just sounds like someone trying to keep things from spiraling again. Behind him, Kwon peeks out curiously, still half hiding like a kid watching adults argue. At the same time, Papa Rabbit has completely sunk down onto the ground, looking dazed as he stares at the damaged field, quietly mourning all the work that went into it. Mama Rabbit tries to comfort him, staying close and gently talking to him. Sejun hears that and immediately responds, keeping his tone steady. He points out that not everything is lost, only part of the field was destroyed, and they can always replant. More importantly, everyone is safe, and that's what matters. Then he shifts the mood slightly, suggesting they just eat first, cheer up, and get back to work afterward. As he says that, he suddenly feels eyes on him. When he turns, both Kaiser and Kellyan are just standing there, looking at him. There's a small pause, and then Sejun sighs like he already knows what this means, and casually invites them to join as well. They glance at each other for a moment, but don't refuse. Soon after, Sejun is outside cooking. The atmosphere has completely changed, there's a stove set up, and he's calmly preparing food like nothing major just happened. A system message pops up confirming he's completed a dish, purple sweet potato soup, and that his cooking proficiency has increased slightly. Once it's ready, he serves a bowl and offers it to Kellyan first, telling him to try it. From behind, Kaiser immediately asks if there are roasted sweet potatoes instead. Sejun answers honestly, this time, he only made soup. That's enough for Kaiser to start complaining, saying Sejun should always have roasted sweet potatoes ready, especially since it's his favorite. It comes out half demanding, half habitual. Sejun's expression darkens almost instantly. Then he snaps back, pointing out the obvious, that if Kaiser hadn't just destroyed his field, maybe that would have been possible. And he doesn't stop there, reminding him that this was a rare chance to harvest crops infused with blue moon energy. That lands. Kaiser's tone drops, and he awkwardly apologizes, clearly realizing he pushed it too far. While that exchange is happening, White Dragon watches everything quietly at first. All around him, people are eating like it's the most normal thing in the world, rabbits happily scooping up soup, passing bowls around, no tension left from what just happened. It's a bit strange, especially considering this whole place was basically a battlefield a moment ago. So naturally, he starts questioning it. He looks at the bowl in front of him and wonders if it's actually that good, or if everyone's just overreacting. After a brief pause, he decides there's only one way to find out. He lifts the bowl and drinks it down in one go, no hesitation, just straight to the point. The moment he finishes, the empty bowl disappears from the statue's side and returns to his real body. Now back in his original form, he's holding the same bowl again. This time, he doesn't rush it. He picks up a spoon instead, almost like he's taking this second attempt more seriously. He mutters to himself, basically deciding to properly taste it now. So he scoops up a spoonful and takes a bite. And that's when it hits. His eyes widen instantly, not in a dramatic way, but in that very real, unplanned kind of reaction where your body responds before your brain does. There's a short pause, like his mind is trying to catch up with what he just tasted. Then without saying anything, he takes another bite. And then another. At this point, the testing phase is clearly over. He starts eating faster, not messy, but definitely no longer composed. The pace picks up naturally, like he's not even thinking about it anymore, just focused on finishing the soup. Then, through the statue, he mutters under his breath that this is frustrating. Kaiser hears that and looks confused, asking what he means. And Kellyan, now fully convinced, repeats himself louder, saying it's genuinely irritating that someone from the Black Tower could make something this good. Then he turns to Sejun and directly asks if there's more. Sejun doesn't let that slide so easily. He reminds him, pretty bluntly, that just moments ago Kellyan was trying to kill him. Still, after a brief pause, he gestures toward the stove and says there should be more left, and Kellyan can eat if he wants, since either way, he'll get proper compensation through the contract. But mid-sentence, Sejun suddenly stops. He looks over and realizes the pot is already empty. Kwon is lying there nearby, completely full, looking like a soft, satisfied fluff ball that clearly finished everything without anyone noticing. Sejun just stares at him for a second, recognizing the situation like it's something he's seen before. Then he exhales quietly. Kellyan, seeing this, immediately reacts with disappointment, almost sounding genuinely upset that there's none left, and tells Sejun to make more. That request triggers something. Sejun's hand starts to glow faintly again, and his tone shifts just enough as he points out that the way Kellyan is speaking makes it sound like he's ordering around a subordinate. At the same time, a magic circle begins forming under Kellyan again. The reaction is instant. Kellyan steps back quickly, clearly remembering what happened earlier, and immediately apologizes. Sejun corrects him calmly, making one thing clear: he's not some chef working under him. He's the tower farmer of the Black Tower. Back in the Red Ribbon Kingdom, things are finally quiet enough for everyone to catch their breath. The first thing Black Rabbit does is walk up to Zereth and, without wasting time, swings his hammer down to break the chains binding his hands. The metal snaps cleanly, and Zereth immediately brings his hands forward, rubbing his wrists like he's making sure they're actually free. Theo steps in right away, asking if he's alright. Zereth nods, still a bit stiff, but clearly relieved. He says he's okay now, thanks to them. Iona, standing nearby, adds something important. She points out that Greed had claimed Zereth was locked inside the treasure vault, but that turned out to be a lie. Even at the very end, he kept deceiving them. Zereth takes that in, then shifts his attention back to them and asks what happened outside, specifically about the dragon-toothed soldiers. Theo answers pretty casually, like it's already behind them. He explains that they took care of Greed, and even dealt with the white dragon that was controlling things. That part hits differently. Zereth freezes for a moment, clearly not expecting that, and questions it, how they even managed something like that. Instead of explaining it himself, Theo just gestures toward White Rabbit. White Rabbit, suddenly put on the spot, points at herself with a slightly unsure expression, almost like she's still processing it too. She admits she doesn't fully understand what happened either. Iona steps in smoothly, keeping things grounded. She doesn't get into the details, just states the one thing that matters: the Red Ribbon Kingdom is safe now. That's enough for Zereth. His shoulders ease a little, and he lets out a quiet sense of relief. Then he apologizes for everything, feeling like he caused trouble for them. Theo immediately shuts that down. He tells him not to think that way, pointing out that Zereth's sense of justice is stronger than most people's. That's what led to all of this in the first place. Zereth thanks him sincerely, then mentions that when Theo returns to the Wandering Merchants Association, his father will definitely reward him properly. But Theo doesn't seem interested in that right now. He casually says he'll have to delay that. Zereth looks confused, asking why. Theo taps his bag and explains he's got a contract to fulfill first. He's carrying a huge load of items that need to be delivered to humans on the lower floors. And just like that, he moves on. He hops up onto a wolf's back in one smooth motion, settling himself like it's second nature by now. Before leaving, he looks back at everyone and gives a brief acknowledgement, something like a good work to the group, and then says he's heading straight to the 38th floor. As he rides off, there's a small pause where everyone just watches him go. Iona, looking at his back, comments that he's really grown into a proper wandering merchant. Zereth adds to that, almost like he's been thinking it for a while, saying that from the very first time he saw Theo, he already considered him the best at what he does. Then the scene shifts back to the 99th floor. Sejun is already back to work. System messages start popping up one after another as he plants seeds, specifically 5 colored beans. Each message notes small increases in job experience and skill proficiency, even mentioning an extra boost effect stacking on top. Sejun glances at the notifications and seems satisfied, giving a simple, approving reaction before brushing off his hands. Then he looks around at everyone and calls out that since they've all eaten, it's time to get back to restoring the field. The response is immediate. The Rabbit family and Kwon react with energy, cheering and getting ready to move again. Just as things are settling into a work rhythm, Sejun hears a buzzing sound behind him. He pauses and turns slightly, calling out to what he assumes is one of the poison honeybees, asking what's going on. But when he fully turns around, he stops. There's a brief moment where he just looks at it, slightly puzzled. Because this one doesn't look familiar. He says as much, noting that he's never seen this particular poison honeybee before. The bee, larger, more distinct, faces him directly. And instead of acting like the others, it seems to be observing him just as closely, almost with the same level of curiosity.
Like, share.
So the moment starts off a bit tense but still under control. Sejun looks at the unfamiliar queen bee and, trying to understand the situation, asks who she is. His tone isn't aggressive, more confused than anything. Beside him, Papa Rabbit and Kwon are just staring at her, clearly impressed by her presence, like they can already tell she's not ordinary. While this is happening, one of their local bees flies in, probably drawn by the unfamiliar aura. At first, it just observes. But the second it recognizes her, its entire attitude flips. You can almost feel the shift. It goes from curious to openly hostile in an instant. It calls her out as being from the East Forest, and not just any bees, but poison bees. That single identification is enough to change the mood completely. The East Forest queen bee, who had been holding herself together until now, suddenly looks unsure. You can tell she didn't expect to be recognized so quickly, and definitely not like this. There's a pause where she just doesn't know how to respond. Meanwhile, the local bee doesn't hesitate at all. It steps forward, acting like a guard who just caught an intruder, aggressively telling her this isn't her territory and that she needs to leave immediately. There's no negotiation in its tone, just pure territorial instinct. And the queen bee, She doesn't argue back. Instead, she kind of freezes. Then her expression starts to crumble. She tries to hold it in, you can actually picture her struggling for a second, but it doesn't last. Her composure just breaks, and she ends up crying right there. Now Sejun is completely thrown off. A second ago this was just an awkward encounter, and now there's a crying queen bee in front of him and an angry one yelling from the side. He immediately shifts into damage control mode, trying to calm her down with a gentle voice. He's clearly panicking, but he's doing his best to sound reassuring, like someone trying to stop a situation from spiraling. At the same time, the local bee is still going on, doubling down and basically demanding she leave right now. Sejun tries to handle both sides. He turns to the aggressive bee and tells it to calm down too, but he doesn't even get to finish, because that's when he hears it. A loud, growing buzzing sound in the distance. It's the kind of sound that doesn't need explanation. Everyone hears it and instantly understands what it means. Sejun stops mid-sentence. The local bee freezes. Kwon and Papa Rabbit also stiffen. Even without seeing anything yet, they all know this is bad. And then the reason becomes obvious. A swarm, no, a full force of bees, is rushing toward them. At the center of all this, the East Forest queen bee is still crying, covering her face, completely unaware, or maybe just overwhelmed. The timing couldn't be worse. Sejun, at this point, is just stuck. You can tell his brain is trying to catch up, but everything is happening too fast. The incoming bees don't slow down at all. As they get closer, their voices start to carry. One of them angrily demands to know who dared to make their queen cry. Another one jumps in immediately, loudly declaring it's ready to risk its life to attack. That kind of energy spreads fast. Now both Sejun and the local bee look equally horrified. For once, they're on the same page, silently realizing just how bad this situation has gotten. Almost on cue, the queen from Sejun's side arrives. She moves in quickly, clearly alerted by the disturbance, and immediately asks what's happening. Sejun reaches up and adjusts his hat, a small, almost automatic action, but it shows he's completely at a loss. He doesn't even know where to begin explaining this mess. Before he can say anything, the local bee rushes to report, trying to explain that the East Forest poison bees suddenly showed up. It doesn't even finish properly, it's more like panic reporting than a clear explanation. But the damage is already done. Seeing the incoming swarm and their aggression, Sejun's queen doesn't hesitate. She raises her voice and orders everyone to prepare for battle. That command lands heavily. Kwon, who's been watching all this unfold, hesitantly questions if they're really about to fight. It's not defiance, just disbelief at how quickly things escalated. But no one waits for that question to be answered. The East Forest bees are already charging forward like an angry wave. And almost immediately, the bees on Sejun's side respond the same way. There's no pause, no strategy meeting, just instinct taking over. And right in the middle of it, Sejun watches everything tip over the edge. He adjusts his hat again, probably the only thing he can control right now, and realizes that if this continues even for a moment longer, it's going to turn into a full-scale war. So just as both sides are about to crash into each other, no hesitation left, everyone already moving, a voice suddenly cuts through everything. It's loud. Not just shouting loud, but the kind that feels like it presses down on the entire space. The voice basically complains about all the noise, like the whole battlefield is just an inconvenience. And that alone is enough to stop everything. Mid-charge, mid-flight, mid-step, everyone freezes. It's not even a conscious decision. The pressure that follows pins them in place. You can almost picture the air getting heavier, like something invisible just settled over the battlefield. The bees from both sides start trembling. Not out of confusion this time, but pure instinct. Slowly, almost cautiously, they begin looking around, trying to figure out where that presence is coming from. Then they see it. A white dragon lands a short distance away, calm, controlled, and very clearly the source of all that pressure. The way he stands there, it's not even aggressive at first, just annoyed. Like he showed up because the noise bothered him, not because he cared about the situation. He looks at them and basically complains again, this time more openly, calling all of them noisy and irritating. Even Sejun feels it. He struggles a bit just to stay standing, like the pressure alone is making it hard to breathe properly. Still, he manages to look over and, slightly confused, calls out the dragon's name, recognizing him. Kwon, standing nearby, tilts his head and wonders out loud why this guy is still around, clearly not expecting him to show up again. Papa Rabbit doesn't even say anything, he's just staring, trying to process what's happening. The dragon doesn't respond to any of them. He doesn't even look their way. Instead, he focuses on the battlefield and starts gathering energy. You can see it building up, he's preparing a breath attack, and from his tone, he fully intends to wipe everything out just to get rid of the noise. That shifts the fear to another level. Now it's not just tension between two groups, it's everyone realizing they might get erased together. The bees from both sides, including both queen bees, start shaking even more. No one's thinking about fighting anymore. Right then, Sejun moves. He steps forward, placing himself in front of the bees, spreading his arms slightly like he's trying to block something way bigger than himself. He calls out to the dragon, stopping him, questioning why he's going this far, reminding him that he already messed with his farm before and asking if now he's planning to harm the poison bees too. The dragon barely reacts. He dismisses it casually, saying he doesn't care about any of that. To him, the only issue is the noise, they're bothering him, and that's reason enough. And then, a magic circle appears beneath his feet. It's sudden, clean, and very clearly not something the dragon expected. His whole attitude changes instantly. The arrogance drops, replaced with a much more careful tone. He quickly backs down, telling Sejun to calm down, like he's trying to de-escalate before things get worse for him. Sejun, though, isn't buying it. He just looks at him, completely unconvinced, like he's seen through that switch. Behind him, the East Forest Queen Bee slowly lowers her hands. She's not crying anymore. Instead, she's staring at Sejun, a bit wide-eyed. Around her, the bees start murmuring among themselves, trying to process what they just saw. One of them quietly points out that Sejun just stopped a white dragon. Another one follows up, almost connecting the dots, realizing that means something much bigger, but they don't even get to finish that thought. Because Sejun moves again. He adjusts his hat, this time pulling it down slightly so it casts a shadow over his eyes. His posture shifts, still calm, but more firm now. Then he speaks. Not loudly, but with enough weight that everyone listens. He introduces his position as the middle manager of the Black Tower, making it clear he's not just some random person standing in the middle of this chaos. Then he looks around at both sides, the bees, the queens, even the dragon, and tells them all to get along. Simple instruction. No extra explanation. The white dragon doesn't argue. If anything, he looks like he already expected this outcome the moment that magic circle appeared. But the bees, they're completely stunned. Both sides just stand there, frozen for a different reason now. Even the queen bees don't know how to react immediately. And off to the side, Kwon is just looking at Sejun, eyes wide, quietly impressed, because for that moment, the way Sejun stepped in and handled everything, he actually did look pretty cool. Then the scene shifts, and the mood changes completely. Instead of tension, you see the East Forest Queen Bee sitting comfortably, holding a jar of honey. She takes a slow sip, then another, and you can actually see her relax with each taste. Her shoulders loosen, her expression softens, and before long she's smiling, bright, satisfied, completely at ease. If you hadn't seen her crying just moments ago, you'd honestly think she'd been living her best life this whole time. Not far from her, Kwon is watching this happen very closely. At first it's just observation, then it slowly turns into concern, and then, very clearly, jealousy. Jar after jar keeps disappearing, and you can almost see him counting in his head. Finally, he mutters under his breath, basically mourning the loss of what he clearly considers his honey. Sejun notices immediately. From the side, in a calm tone, he tells Kwon to ease up a bit, to let it go for now. It's not a big deal. Meanwhile, the same bee who was ready to throw hands earlier is now just standing there, relaxed, even looking a little pleased. The shift is almost funny. A few minutes ago it was "this is our territory," and now it's basically silent approval. And over at the center, both queen bees are actually getting along. They're sitting close, chatting, even laughing lightly. No tension, no hostility, just a surprisingly natural moment, like this whole conflict never happened. Sejun watches that, and you can see the idea forming. He smiles a little, then leans toward Kwon and points out something practical. If they manage to bring these poison bees onto their side, this situation could actually turn into a long-term benefit. More bees means more honey later. That instantly flips Kwon's mood. His eyes light up, the jealousy disappears, and now he's practically bouncing with excitement at the thought of future honey supplies. Priorities restored. Then Sejun suddenly remembers something. He turns back to the East Forest Queen Bee and casually asks how she even ended up here in the first place, since this territory clearly belongs to their group. The queen beside him follows up, pointing out the same thing, that she should have known this wasn't her area. That question shifts the mood again. The East Queen Bee's expression drops. She lowers her head slightly, and in a quieter voice, explains that they were driven out, attacked by strange red creatures that breathe fire. Sejun catches onto that detail immediately. He repeats it, focusing on the red and fire part, trying to connect it with something he already knows. Before he can think it through, the other bees from the east start adding details. One mentions that their shells are extremely tough, another says their stingers couldn't even pierce them. Sejun pauses for a second, then seems to reach a conclusion. Without saying much, he turns and steps through the dimensional door, telling everyone to wait. It's quick enough that no one even reacts in time. Kwon looks confused. One of the bees leans forward, trying to peek inside, but before anyone can figure out what he's doing, Sejun comes right back out. In his hands, he's holding the corpse of one of those creatures. He lifts it slightly and asks if this is what attacked them. The reaction is immediate. The East Queen Bee gasps in shock, her grip loosens, and the jar of honey slips right out of her hands. Before it can hit the ground, the queen from Sejun's side moves fast and catches it cleanly, no spill, no waste. Priorities are clearly shared here. Around them, the bees react in completely different ways. Some are stunned, others instantly furious. A few of them lock onto the corpse with red eyes, their anger rising all over again. Within seconds, voices start calling for battle, and several bees charge forward toward the carcass like it personally offended them. Sejun steps in quickly. He raises his voice just enough to stop them, telling everyone to calm down. Then he explains, this isn't a living enemy. It's just a dead body. Something he picked up earlier. To make his point even clearer, he lifts it up again and casually adds that he actually brought it along out of curiosity, wondering if it might taste good, like the locusts he's dealt with before. There's a brief pause there. Then he admits the obvious, the shell is ridiculously tough, basically not worth the effort. Kwon, meanwhile, is staring at it from the side, clearly still considering whether it's edible. His priorities haven't changed much. Sejun's tone shifts again as he continues. He explains that these creatures appeared before in another forest, but now they've shown up here too. Which means they're spreading, and probably faster than expected. That hits the East Bees hard. One of them speaks up, realizing their hive might already be under attack right now. Another lowers their head, frustrated, admitting they couldn't protect their home. The mood drops again. The East Queen Bee also lowers her head, quietly carrying that same weight. And then Sejun steps forward slightly. He pats his chest and says they'll help. Simple, direct. That catches everyone off guard. The queen beside him looks surprised. The East Queen Bee looks up, not fully believing what she just heard. Even the surrounding bees hesitate, unsure how to react. Sejun just repeats the idea in his own way, reminding them that he already said they should get along. This time, the queen on his side smiles, clearly on board. Kwon straightens up too, placing his hands on his hips, looking ready, as if he's already accepted this as the next thing they're doing. Then the scene shifts over to Theo and his group moving through the 38th floor. Theo's riding along while quietly humming to himself, clearly in a good mood, almost like he's on a casual stroll rather than a business trip. Up ahead, the Wolf Chief and the Black Wolf are leading the way, walking at a steady pace. After a moment, the Wolf Chief looks around and casually comments on how nice the air feels here, fresh, calm, almost relaxing. That immediately snaps Theo out of his mood. He stops humming and fires back, clearly annoyed, reminding him that they're not here to enjoy the scenery. There's a lot of work to do, things to sell, and on top of that, he's carrying a special request from Chairman Park. So in his mind, this is anything but a relaxing trip. The Wolf Chief just goes quiet after that, a little awkward, like he regrets saying anything. Meanwhile, the Black Wolf quietly mutters under his breath, pointing out the obvious, that Theo was the one happily humming just seconds ago. Theo almost reacts to that, but before he can say anything, there's noise up ahead. A loud, chaotic kind of noise. Everyone looks forward, and they see a group of humans gathered around some cats, arguing loudly. The tone isn't friendly, it's tense, impatient. Theo slows down, watching the scene, trying to figure out what's going on, and more importantly, who these cats are. In the crowd, one of the humans is already shouting, frustrated that what used to be handled as auctions is now being done on a first-come, first-served basis. You can tell he feels cheated, like if he'd known earlier, he would have shown up sooner. At the center of it, a black cat, Eun, is trying to handle the situation, but he clearly looks overwhelmed. He hesitates, admits he doesn't really know how to run an auction, and even takes a small step back as the pressure builds. Another person cuts in, raising the urgency. People are poisoned, and they need the detox green onions immediately. This isn't just about buying anymore, it's about survival. Eun tries to calm them down, asking for a moment, but it's obvious he's losing control of the situation. That's when Theo finally recognizes him. He calls out Eun's name, stepping forward. Eun looks up, surprised, and before he can fully process it, someone in the crowd recognizes Theo too. Then another. And suddenly, the energy shifts. People start pointing, calling out his name, telling others that Theo is here. The crowd that was just angry now feels almost relieved. Even Eun, still processing it, corrects himself mid-sentence, realizing he's not just Theo, he's the actual representative merchant. There's a bit of disbelief mixed with excitement. Some people start asking where he's been this whole time, others just seem glad he showed up. Theo, seeing all this attention, naturally leans into it. He smiles, a little smug, and casually asks if they missed him that much. Off to the side, though, there's a completely different reaction happening. A group of girls notice the Black Wolf and immediately label him as a giant puppy. The Black Wolf pauses, clearly not pleased with that description, and questions it with a low, slightly offended tone. Then he calmly corrects them, explaining that he's actually a black wolf, not a puppy. But the situation doesn't improve. Nearby, a human boy is already hugging the Wolf Chief, calling him by name and telling the Black Wolf to just accept it. The Black Wolf, Hegel, just stands there, completely stunned, like he doesn't even know how this became his problem. While all of that is happening, Theo jumps down from the Wolf Chief's back and gets straight to work. He opens his bag and starts rummaging through it, then announces that since everyone's been waiting, he'll begin by selling a batch of magic cherry tomatoes. Eun watches this, still nervous, but also relieved that Theo has taken over. Just as Theo is about to start, a human boy interrupts him. Theo looks at him, confused. The boy explains, more urgently this time, asking if Theo can prioritize the detox green onions instead. He makes it clear that there are hunters in critical condition because of poison, and they need help immediately. That shifts the atmosphere again. Theo pauses, actually taking that in. Eun looks at him quietly, watching closely, waiting to see what decision he'll make. For a brief moment, Theo just hums to himself, thinking. Then, without making a big deal out of it, he changes direction. He pulls out the green onions and announces that he'll distribute a large amount of them, for free. The reaction is instant. People gasp. You can almost see the disbelief spread across their faces, and then just as quickly, it turns into excitement. Some look like they're about to rush forward immediately, others start pushing, trying to get ahead, calling out that they were here first. The situation starts slipping toward chaos again. But Theo steps forward, plants himself in front of the pile, and raises his voice sharply. That one shout is enough to freeze everyone in place. Even the wolf chief and Hagel step up beside him, adding to that sense of control. Then Theo lays it out clearly. First priority, treat the poison patients. After that, everyone lines up properly, and each person takes a limited amount. Simple, direct, no room for argument. And this time, the crowd actually listens. Oren just stands there, watching him handle everything so cleanly, and you can see the shift in his expression, from stress to genuine respect. Right as things start settling down under Theo's control, a loud, hearty laugh suddenly cuts through the crowd from behind. It's the kind of laugh that makes people instinctively turn around. An old man steps forward, still amused, openly remarking that, at this point, a cat is handling things better than humans. The comment lands half like a joke, half like a compliment, but either way, it grabs attention. Someone in the crowd recognizes him immediately, and their reaction shifts from curiosity to shock. They call out his identity, revealing that it's Han Tae-jun, the leader of the Phoenix Guild. That name alone changes the atmosphere a bit. Theo looks over, sees him, and casually raises his hand in greeting like he's meeting an old acquaintance rather than someone important. He greets him warmly, then immediately asks about Donsik, like that's the most natural thing to bring up. Han Tae-jun responds just as casually, mentioning that Donsik had actually been waiting for Theo every day, but, of course, the one day Theo shows up happens to be the one day Donsik isn't around. Off to the side, Oren is watching all of this unfold, clearly impressed. He quietly notes how the chaotic situation started resolving itself almost the moment Theo stepped in. Han Tae-jun then shifts his attention back to Theo and acknowledges what he just did, giving out detox green onions for free, and expresses gratitude on behalf of the hunters. Theo doesn't let that sit for long. He immediately adds that there is, in fact, a condition. That catches Han Tae-jun's attention. Theo reaches into his bag again and pulls out another item, introducing it as a new variety, something different from what they've seen so far. He explains that he'll be giving these out for free as well, but in return, they need to plant them outside the tower, as many as possible. Han Tae-jun pauses, clearly not expecting that. He questions it, making sure he heard correctly, that these are also being given away for free. Around them, the crowd starts reacting again. People whisper, surprised and curious. A new variety? Free again? Some are already wondering what kind of effect it has. Theo quickly steps in to clarify before anyone gets the wrong idea. He warns them not to treat it like food. These aren't meant to be eaten, they're crops, but dangerous ones, sharp enough to function like blades. That shifts the curiosity into something more cautious. Han Tae-jun takes one, examining it more closely, then looks back at Theo and asks if this whole plan, giving these out and asking people to plant them, came from Park Sejun. Theo confirms it without hesitation. That makes Han Tae-jun pause again, thinking a bit more seriously now. He asks if Theo is really sure about distributing everything for free like this. Meanwhile, Theo is already rummaging through his bag again, completely unbothered, casually mentioning that it's fine, and besides, they've got even more impressive new products lined up anyway. That instantly sparks excitement again. A boy nearby reacts first, surprised that there's still more. Then a girl, smiling brightly, thanks Theo, clearly relieved and grateful. Han Tae-jun glances briefly in her direction, noticing the reaction, and right at that moment, Theo casually drops something that completely shifts the mood. Still smiling, still in that same easy tone, he mentions that at this rate, their world is going to be destroyed soon. The words land quietly, but heavily. The boy and girl who were just excited freeze almost instantly, their expressions stiffening as the meaning sinks in. Han Tae-jun's reaction is sharper. He immediately turns his focus back to Theo, his expression tightening just slightly as he tries to confirm what he just heard. He repeats it back, almost like he's hoping he misunderstood, that their world is going to be destroyed. And Theo, still wearing that same light, almost cheerful expression, simply confirms it, like it's just another normal piece of information. And for a moment, no one really knows how to respond. Subscribe. Comment. The moment kind of hangs in the air after Theo says it, like everyone heard it clearly, but their brains need a second to catch up. The two younger hunters are the first to react. The girl instinctively brings her hand up to her mouth, eyes wide, like she's trying to physically hold in what she just heard. Beside her, the guy stiffens, fists tightening without him even realizing it, his face going pale as the meaning finally hits him. He blurts it out, almost to confirm it's real, that the world ending is actually what was just said. Han Tae-jun doesn't react as loudly, but you can see it land. He leans forward slightly, his focus sharpening on Theo. He's the type who doesn't panic first, he verifies. His voice comes out firm, pressing for clarity, not emotion. Theo, though, doesn't answer immediately. There's a brief shift, more like a quiet recall than a full pause, and it moves into that earlier moment with Sejun. Sejun is crouched down so he's eye level with Theo, keeping things calm and direct. He doesn't look dramatic or urgent in a loud way, but there's weight in how seriously he speaks. He makes it clear that this isn't something people can handle hearing outright, that if the truth spreads, panic will spiral before anything else even happens. It's less about hiding the truth and more about controlling how it's handled. Theo listens without interrupting. His usual smugness isn't there, just full attention. His eyes stay fixed on Sejun, taking everything in, like he understands this isn't just another task. Then it shifts back. Theo is standing in front of them again, small as ever but somehow holding the center of attention. One of the hunters is still visibly struggling to process it, letting out a confused reaction under his breath, but Theo doesn't get pulled into that. He keeps his composure, eyes closed for a moment like he's organizing his words, then calmly explains that he can't share everything, but if they follow what he says, there's still a way to avoid the outcome he mentioned. That answer doesn't fully settle things. The female hunter leans forward slightly, still unsure, trying to make sense of following instructions without understanding the full picture. She asks for more detail, not aggressively, just cautiously, like she wants something solid to hold on to. Meanwhile, Han Tae-jun lowers his gaze to the green onion in his hand. It's such a simple object for something tied to a situation this serious, and you can see him weighing that contrast. He doesn't rush his decision. He just stands there for a second, thinking it through. Then when he looks up again, that hesitation is gone. He doesn't ask another question. He accepts it. The scene shifts, and now he's already moving. Standing ahead of the others, back straight, tone completely different, no uncertainty left. The younger hunters behind him are still catching up, one of them calling out in disbelief, but Tae-jun doesn't slow down to explain himself. He gives clear instructions, what to do with the onions, how to handle distribution, where to focus efforts. It's practical, immediate, and delivered like there's no time to debate it. There's even a brief, almost ironic contrast in how it sounds. Everything suddenly revolves around crops, but the way he says it doesn't leave room for doubt. To him, this is the plan now. Then his tone tightens. He adds one more condition, keep everything about the destruction quiet. No rumors, no leaks. Not because he doubts them, but because he understands what people would do with incomplete information. Panic would spread faster than anything they're trying to stop. By the time he finishes, the group in front of him has already shifted. The hesitation from earlier is still there, but it's been pushed under something else, responsibility. When he asks if they understand, it's not really a question. They respond immediately, voices lined up, not perfectly confident but committed enough. The scene opens up on the 99th floor, and right away you see Sejun halfway up a rough, jagged cliff. He's not climbing smoothly either. His fingers are digging into uneven rocks, his arms are trembling from the strain, and every pull upward looks like it costs him real effort. His breathing is heavy, almost uneven, and sweat is clearly getting in his way, but he keeps going anyway. As he drags himself a little higher, he mutters under his breath, clearly annoyed that no one warned him this forest would basically turn into a wall of rock. It's less like exploring nature and more like accidentally signing up for a mountain climb. Floating just above him, the East Queen Bee moves effortlessly, keeping pace without even trying. She doesn't look strained at all. In fact, compared to Sejun, she seems almost too calm, like this whole situation is just another normal day for her. Then there's Garen, who is not struggling in the slightest. He's sitting comfortably on top of Sejun's straw hat, completely relaxed, looking around as if he's just sightseeing. From up there, he leans forward a bit and checks on Sejun, asking if he's doing alright, but in a way that doesn't exactly match how serious the climb actually is. Nearby, Kwon stands on more stable ground with a small wooden staff in hand. He's watching closely, almost like he's ready to step in if needed, though what he'd actually do in this situation is questionable. Behind them, a group of smaller poison bees follows along, staying close as the whole group makes their way upward. The focus comes back to Sejun's face. Up close, you can see how much effort this is taking. His jaw is tight, his eyes are narrowed, and his arm shakes slightly every time he pulls himself up another bit. Still, he doesn't stop. Garen, still comfortably perched above, looks down again and points out that Sejun is about to face fire ants soon, wondering if pushing himself this hard already is really a good idea. Sejun doesn't deny that it's tough, his voice even reflects it, but he doesn't slow down either. As he continues climbing, his reason becomes clearer. His gaze shifts briefly toward the East Queen Bee and Kwon, who are both watching him. There's a quiet sense of responsibility in the way he keeps moving. He's not doing this just because he has to, he's doing it because he promised. Helping the poison bees isn't optional to him anymore, it's something he's already decided to see through. The climb continues, and the mood softens slightly when Kwon looks up at him with bright, admiring eyes and calls him cool. It's such a simple, genuine reaction that it cuts through all the tension for a moment. Sejun doesn't really have the energy to respond properly. He lets out a tired, breathy laugh instead, but you can tell he heard it, and it gives him just a little extra push. Now he's close to the top. His movements slow down even more, every inch upward taking visible effort. His hands grip the edge of the plateau, fingers tightening as he tries to pull himself up. His whole body tenses, arms straining, shoulders lifting, legs searching for any support. The East Queen Bee hovers right there beside him, encouraging him as he struggles through that final stretch. Her presence stays steady, like she's guiding him through the last bit without actually interfering. Sejun lets out one long, exhausted groan as he gathers whatever strength he has left and pulls himself over the edge. He makes it, but just barely. As soon as he's on solid ground, he drops forward onto all fours, breathing heavily, trying to recover. His whole body looks spent, like he used everything just to get up there. Garen finally hops off the hat now that the climb is over, landing lightly and switching from passenger mode to actually using his own legs again. Kwon and the nearby bee watch from the side, their attention fixed on Sejun as he catches his breath. And after a moment, still panting, he manages to say that he finally made it up. Right after pulling himself up, Sejun barely gets a moment to recover before something catches his attention. His posture stiffens, and his expression shifts immediately. He's looking straight ahead at something we can't see yet, but whatever it is, it's clearly not good. His hand tightens into a fist, and a single drop of sweat slides down his face as he lets out a slow, tired breath, like he already knows he's not going to like what's in front of him. As the view pulls back, it finally reveals what he's staring at, and yeah, his reaction makes sense. Right below him stretches a massive crater, dark and uneven, and it's completely overrun. Giant red ants are everywhere, moving in thick, restless swarms that cover the ground like a living layer. Their movement isn't chaotic either, it's constant and purposeful, which somehow makes it worse. At the center of all that, there's a glowing yellow hive, but instead of looking protected, it's completely surrounded and occupied. Sejun just stands there at the edge, taking it all in. His shoulders drop slightly as the situation sinks in, and he quietly acknowledges what he's seeing. It's not just bad, it's a full-on disaster. Kwon and Garen are right beside him, both looking out over the crater as well. Neither of them interrupts the moment, they just observe, letting the scale of it settle in. The focus shifts closer to the hive itself. Up close, it looks even worse. The ants have completely taken over, crawling over every surface, their sharp mandibles moving as they push deeper into what used to be the bee's home. There's no clear space left, it's all been claimed. From somewhere nearby, the queen bee's frustration comes through. Her voice carries a mix of anger and helplessness as she points out that the invaders are still inside, still occupying what belongs to them. That seems to be the point where Sejun stops just observing. He straightens up a little, his expression tightening, not panicked this time, but focused. The hesitation from earlier fades, replaced by something more deliberate. The queen bee hovers close to his shoulder now, her presence more intense, like she's ready to act the second he gives the signal. Kwon looks up at him, curious and expectant, asking what he's planning to do. It's a simple question, but it shifts the moment slightly. Now all attention is on Sejun. He doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he clenches his fist once more, then lets a small, confident grin form. It's not over the top, just enough to show that he's already decided. When he finally speaks, it's less about explaining and more about signaling that he's ready to move. And then he reveals why. He casually mentions that he's been eating those special cherry tomatoes, the ones infused with the blue moon's energy. The way he says it, you can tell this isn't just a random detail. It's something he's been building up to. That thought leads straight into a quick flashback. You see him earlier, relax for once, casually popping one of those glowing blue tomatoes into his mouth. He chews without much concern, like it's just a snack, but almost immediately, the system notifications start appearing one after another. Each one confirms that something is happening. The tomatoes aren't just food, they're steadily increasing his magic power, little by little, permanently. The numbers keep ticking up, and eventually, it crosses a key threshold. When his magic power goes past that point, the tone of the notifications changes. It's no longer just small increases, something bigger unlocks. A previously sealed thunder skill becomes available, and not just partially. The restrictions on it are completely removed. More messages follow, showing that his proficiency with the skill is already progressing rapidly, climbing through levels until it stabilizes at a higher stage. Then Sejun lifts one hand toward the sky, and holds it there for a brief second, like he's lining something up. Then the energy starts gathering. At first, it's just a faint glow forming in his palm, but it quickly builds into a dense, bright orb of white and blue light. The air shifts almost immediately, he calls for dark clouds, and the sky responds without hesitation. The clear space above the crater begins to thicken, clouds rolling in unnaturally fast, layering over each other until everything feels heavier. A low rumble follows, not loud yet, but steady enough to feel in your chest. He doesn't pause there. As the clouds settle, he calls for rain next. And it comes down fast. The first drops hit the rocks, then the dirt, then everything at once. Within seconds, it turns into a proper downpour. Sejun stands right in the middle of it, unmoving, while the rain soaks through his clothes and runs down his face. Around him, the others react in their own ways. The queen bee hovers close, steady despite the weather. Kwon watches quietly with his staff in hand, and Garen seems to be having the time of his life, reacting to the rain like it's the best thing that's happened all day. Down below, the effect is already showing. The rainwater starts pooling across the uneven ground of the crater, slipping between cracks and forming shallow puddles. The red ants don't stop moving, but their environment is changing, whether they like it or not. Back on the cliff, Sejun shifts his focus inward for a moment. He reaches across and grips his own wrist, tightening his hold like he's trying to stabilize something building inside him. There's a subtle change in his expression, not forced confidence, but the kind that comes from knowing exactly what you're about to do. Electricity begins to crackle around him. Thin strands of blue lightning flicker across his arm and shoulder, snapping in short bursts that light up the rain around him. He draws his arm back slowly, like he's preparing to throw something heavy, even though there's nothing visible in his hand except that concentrated energy. The air around him fills with that sharp, buzzing sound, quiet at first, then louder, building alongside the charge. He exhales once, steadying himself, and then moves. With a sharp forward motion, he releases everything at once. A massive bolt of lightning drops from above, drawn down as if his hand pulled it directly out of the clouds. It doesn't just strike, it slams into the crater like a solid beam of light, thick and blinding, connecting sky to ground in a single, violent line. For a split second, everything is white. Then the energy spreads. The lightning hits the ground and bursts outward, electricity racing across the wet surface, amplified by the rainwater pooling everywhere. It travels fast, branching out in jagged lines that cut through the swarm of ants before they can even react. The entire crater lights up in flashes of blue. The ants are caught right in it. Their movements stop abruptly as the current surges through them, their bodies glowing under the discharge. Up on the cliff, Sejun lowers his arm slowly. His posture relaxes just a little, and there's a small, satisfied look on his face, not exaggerated, just enough to show he knows that worked. Behind him, the queen bee hovers in place, clearly impressed, while Kwon looks up at him with bright, open admiration, unable to hide how excited he is. For a brief moment, everything feels under control. Then his body gives out. It's subtle at first, his stance loosens, his balance shifts. The energy that was holding him up is just gone. His expression blanks slightly, like his mind hasn't caught up yet, and then his knees buckle. Kwon notices immediately, his reaction sharp and confused, while Garen stiffens off to the side, realizing something's wrong. Sejun sways once at the edge of the cliff. And then he falls. There's no attempt to catch himself, he just tips forward and drops, disappearing over the edge as the rain continues to fall around him. The moment stretches for a second as he descends through the dark space below, completely unconscious. Kwon's voice breaks through, calling out after him, while Garen quickly pieces together what happened. Sejun didn't hold anything back. That last attack drained everything he had. Before he can fall too far, movement cuts through the rain. A swarm of bees rushes downward, fast and coordinated. The two queen bees lead, diving straight toward him without hesitation. They close the distance quickly, reaching him mid-fall and grabbing onto his shirt near the shoulders. They struggle for a second, the difference in size makes it obvious, but they don't let go. With the help of the swarm around them, they manage to slow his descent, turning what should have been a hard fall into something controlled. Bit by bit, they guide him down until his feet, and then the rest of him, touch the ground inside the crater. They lower him carefully, easing him onto the surface among the remains of the ants. For a moment, everything is still again. The bees hover nearby, staying close, almost forming a loose circle around him. After a short while, Sejun stirs. It starts with a small sound, barely more than a breath, and then he shifts slightly, blinking as his eyes open. His gaze is unfocused at first, like he's not entirely sure where he is. Above him, one of the bees hovers into view, visibly excited. It expresses its gratitude, clearly recognizing what he just did for them. Almost at the same time, system notifications begin appearing again, quietly confirming that something has changed. The queen bee has decided to follow him. More messages stack on top of that, noting his progress. His beekeeping skill has reached its limit, then immediately pushes past it, leveling up again without pause. Even lying there, still recovering, Sejun reacts with a soft, amused chuckle as he notices the jump. It's not dramatic, just a tired kind of satisfaction at seeing the results. After a bit, he pushes himself up into a sitting position, rubbing the back of his head. The bees gather closer now, his familiar companions hovering nearby, one of them holding onto his straw hat. He thanks them simply, admitting that he overdid it. Using that skill took everything he had, and his body paid for it right after. The moment doesn't last long. One of the bees suddenly shifts tone, its attention snapping toward a darker corner of the cave. Its posture tightens, voice sharpening as it points out that not everything is gone yet. The mood changes instantly. The bee moves forward, more aggressive now, ready to attack whatever's left. Sejun, still not fully steady, follows its gaze and notices something, small shapes tucked deeper in the shadows. Faint blue glows, barely visible, watching from a distance. He reacts quickly, raising a hand to stop the bee before it rushes in. There's a pause as he looks more carefully. Something about them doesn't match what they just fought. Instead of pushing forward, he softens his approach. His voice lowers as he calls out toward the darkness, making it clear he's not there to harm them. Inside the shadows, the small figures hesitate. There's a quiet exchange between them, uncertain, but not hostile. They've seen what happened. More importantly, they've seen what Sejun did. After a moment, they make a decision. Slowly, cautiously, they step out into the light. They're much smaller than the fire ants, with a completely different appearance. Their bodies are blue, and growing from their backs are small yellow mushrooms, almost like part of them rather than something attached. Sejun watches them approach, tilting his head slightly as he takes in the sight. A system window appears, identifying them. He reads it, then quietly repeats the name to himself, still looking at the tiny creatures standing in front of him. One of the tiny blue mushroom ants steps forward, and it's clearly terrified. Its whole body is trembling, those little shiver lines practically visible as it struggles to even stand still. It looks up at Sejun like it's already accepted its fate, then quickly blurts out a plea, trying to bargain for its life. While saying that, it reaches back, awkwardly, like it's not something it does often, and pulls off the mushroom growing from its own back. The motion is a bit clumsy, but determined. Then it holds the mushroom out in both hands, like it's offering something incredibly valuable. The focus shifts to the mushroom itself. Up close, it doesn't exactly inspire confidence. It's large, brown, dotted with yellow spots, and the whole thing has that very specific "this might be dangerous" look to it. The atmosphere around it even feels heavier, like the scene itself is quietly warning against it. Sejun looks down at the little ant, then at the mushroom, clearly unsure how to react. He asks, cautiously, whether removing something like that from its own body is actually okay. There's a bit of genuine concern in his tone, not suspicion, just confusion mixed with worry. The ant, however, doesn't hesitate at all. It insists it's fine and nudges the mushroom forward again, encouraging him to take it, even claiming it tastes good. That doesn't help. Sejun leans back slightly, raising his hands a bit like he's trying to create distance without offending it. His eyes stay fixed on the mushroom, and his expression says everything. He does not trust this thing. From his point of view, it just looks like a poisonous mushroom, no matter how he tries to rationalize it. Before he can decide what to do, something moves fast. A small red blur cuts right through the moment. Kwon appears almost instantly, like he was just waiting for food to show up. Sejun doesn't even have time to react properly. He just manages to call out Kwon's name in surprise as the little bear swoops in and snatches the mushroom straight out of the ant's hands. Kwon holds it up, already excited, already curious, like this is the best thing that's happened all day. He looks at Sejun, asking if it's something tasty, completely unaware of the tension he just interrupted. And then, without waiting for an answer, he takes a bite. Not a small one either, a proper, enthusiastic bite. For a split second, everything just freezes. Then Sejun panics. His reaction comes out all at once, his posture stiffens, his eyes widen, and he practically jumps forward. In the background, his thoughts go straight to the worst-case scenario. To him, Kwon just ate something that looked like it belonged in a poison guidebook. He immediately starts fumbling around, trying to act fast. In his rush, he even drops something he was holding, barely noticing as he scrambles. His focus is entirely on Kwon now, calling out to him while already thinking ahead. He needs something to counter whatever that mushroom might do. His mind goes straight to the detox onions. He's halfway ready to run. Meanwhile, the mushroom ants just watch, confused. From their perspective, this reaction probably seems a bit excessive. And then, nothing happens. Kwon doesn't collapse. He doesn't look sick. If anything, he looks better. He pauses mid-chew, his expression shifting, not into pain, but into pure satisfaction. His eyes brighten, his body relaxes, and there's this quiet, content energy around him as he finishes the bite. Then he happily announces that it tastes really good. Just like that. Sejun stops. The urgency, the panic, it all just stalls. He's still tense, still mid-motion, but now he's staring at Kwon, trying to process what he's seeing. The queen bee reacts too, clearly just as surprised, hovering in place as she takes in the situation. Kwon, completely unaffected by the chaos he just caused, holds out the remaining piece of the mushroom towards Sejun with a small, genuine smile, offering him a bite as well. Sejun doesn't take it immediately. Instead, he looks down at another mushroom placed near one of the ants. His hesitation is obvious, there's still doubt there, still that lingering "this might be a bad idea" feeling. Eating it raw, especially after everything, doesn't sit right with him. So he decides to handle it his own way. He lifts one hand and focuses. A small flame flickers to life at the tip of his finger, controlled, steady, not aggressive. With his other hand, he picks up the mushroom, holding it carefully as if testing its weight. He activates his skill quietly, more out of habit than show. As soon as the flame appears, though, the reaction around him is immediate. The mushroom ants panic. They scatter backward all at once, their movements quick and uncoordinated, putting as much distance between themselves and the flame as they can. One of them lets out a small, alarmed cry, clearly frightened by even that tiny bit of fire. Sejun notices right away. The flame is still there, but his attention shifts to them. He turns slightly, looking over with a more apologetic expression, realizing he just triggered something. He lowers his tone and asks if they're afraid of fire. One of the ants, still shaking, answers. Up close, its fear is more obvious now, not just surprise, but something deeper. It explains, in a quiet and uneven way, that they've lived under the control of the fire ants for a long time, and that fear of fire comes from that experience. That's enough for Sejun to understand. His expression softens almost immediately. The flame is still in his hand, but his posture changes, less focused on what he's doing, more on reassuring them. He tells them calmly that things are different now. The ones who used to control them are gone, and they won't be bullied like that anymore. Then, instead of dismissing the fire completely, he explains what he's planning to do, just a quick, light roast. Nothing intense, nothing dangerous. Just enough to make the mushroom safer to eat. Garen hops up onto his hat during this, looking unusually serious. From his spot above, he warns Sejun not to push himself too much, especially after everything that just happened earlier. There's a bit of concern there, like he's keeping track of how much Sejun has already used. Sejun responds without much tension. He reassures him that this isn't the same kind of strain as before. The flame he's using now is different, more of a controlled buff than something that drains him heavily. As he says that, he brings the mushroom slightly closer to the flame, careful with the distance, making sure it doesn't flare up. In the background, the mushroom ants stop retreating. They don't come closer yet, but they're watching now. The fear is still there, but it's mixed with curiosity. They observe him quietly, noticing that despite the fire, he isn't acting aggressively. One of them points it out, almost thinking out loud, that he doesn't seem like someone trying to hurt them. Another quietly agrees. Sejun stands there with that familiar, easygoing look, straw hat on, posture relaxed, but what he's holding completely breaks the calm image. In his hands, he's got this huge mushroom, now lightly grilled, still giving off visible steam. It's big enough that he has to angle it slightly just to handle it properly. He brings it closer to his face and gently blows across the surface, letting out a steady breath to cool it down. You can see him being careful here, not rushing this time, unlike earlier with Kwon. The steam shifts slightly with each breath, and he watches it closely, like he's trying to judge the exact moment it's safe to eat. Garen, sitting right on top of the straw hat, leans forward a little, watching everything from above with quiet curiosity. Once Sejun seems satisfied, he doesn't hesitate much longer. He adjusts his grip and takes a proper bite, no testing nibble, just a full, committed chomp. For a moment, it's just a normal bite. Then everything pauses. Sejun stops mid-chew. His jaw doesn't move, his cheeks stay slightly puffed, and his eyes narrow just a bit as he processes the taste. It's not immediate excitement, it's more like his brain is trying to catch up with what he's experiencing. Above him, Garen notices the sudden stillness. His relaxed posture shifts into something more alert, eyes widening as he looks down at Sejun's face, trying to figure out what just happened. Sejun's expression changes slowly. His eyes open wider, not dramatically, but enough to show something unexpected just hit him. The focus sharpens, like he's trying to confirm what he's tasting. He resumes chewing, but more slowly now, more deliberately. As he continues, the reaction builds. There's a subtle shift in his breathing, a quiet realization forming. The more he chews, the more certain he becomes that this isn't just a regular mushroom. The flavor is developing, deepening in a way that clearly surprises him. He murmurs to himself, almost under his breath, trying to put it into words. Then it clicks. His eyes widen a bit more, and he finally says it out loud, carefully, like he still doesn't fully trust it, that it tastes like meat. Not just any meat either, something very specific. Up on the hat, Garen's confusion is immediate. He tilts his head, clearly not understanding the comparison, just staring down at Sejun like he's waiting for a better explanation. Sejun keeps chewing, testing it again, almost like he's double-checking his own conclusion. The more he does, the more confident he gets. There's even a faint shift in his expression, something between disbelief and quiet satisfaction. He swallows, still looking at the mushroom in his hand, now with a completely different kind of interest. Around him, the others start to take notice. Kwon is nearby, watching with curiosity, his earlier excitement still lingering. The mushroom ants gather closer at Sejun's feet, small and cautious, but clearly paying attention to his reaction. The queen bees hover not too far away, observing the moment without interrupting. Garen finally speaks up, still stuck on that earlier comment, asking what Sejun meant by that comparison. From his perspective, it probably sounds completely random. Sejun doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he looks down at the mushroom ants again, then back at the mushroom in his hand. You can practically see the thought forming, less about the taste now, more about what this means. His posture straightens slightly. The casual mood shifts, just a little. Not tense, not serious in a heavy way, but more focused. He adjusts his stance, and for a moment, there's a subtle emphasis on his role, like he's stepping into it properly. He introduces himself more formally this time, making it clear who he is and what position he holds. It's not loud or intimidating, just steady and direct. The creatures in front of him listen. Then he pauses briefly, looking over them, not just as individuals, but as a group. And then he makes the offer. His tone lightens again, and there's a small smile forming as he speaks. He suggests they come work with him at his farm. Nothing forceful, nothing complicated. Just a simple invitation. By the end of it, his expression shifts fully into that familiar, slightly bright, almost hopeful look. There's a kind of quiet enthusiasm there, like he's already imagining how things could turn out. Garen peeks forward from the top of the hat, looking down at the ants as if he's also waiting to see what they'll say next.
Like, share.
The scene opens in a quiet office at night, the kind where everything feels still once everyone's gone. The lights are low, desks sitting untouched, monitors dark, nothing moving. Then, right in the middle of that silence, a small burst of golden light flickers into existence between the desks. It's not loud, but it's enough to break the calm. The light gathers for a second. And then Bat pops in, wings fluttering as he steadies himself midair. He lets out a small breath like he just completed a precise landing, hovering there with that faint glow still surrounding him. He doesn't waste time. Almost immediately, he shifts into focus, flying forward between the rows of desks. As he moves, he's quietly going over what he needs to find, running through the list in his head so he doesn't mess it up. Ramen, kimchi, chicken, chocolate, snacks, all very specific, all very important. We get a bat's eye view as he moves through the office layout, weaving between chairs and desks, scanning everything carefully. He's not just looking randomly, he's trying to match shapes and packaging he remembers. It's almost like a tiny reconnaissance mission. He lands near a desk by a water cooler and pauses, looking around. There's a mug, a keyboard, a few scattered items, but nothing from his list. His posture drops slightly, and he lets out a quiet sigh. You can tell he was really hoping this spot would have something, especially the noodles. He lingers for a moment, clearly disappointed, before pushing himself to move again. Back in the air, he slows down a bit, the pressure starting to show. He's thinking through the situation. He can't just go back with nothing. That thought alone makes him hesitate mid-flight. Until something catches his eye, he turns quickly and focuses on a nearby desk organizer. Inside are neatly stacked instant coffee sticks. He drifts closer, eyes locking onto the bright yellow packaging. It takes him a second to process it, but once it clicks, his whole expression lifts. He recognizes it. He grabs a bundle and pulls them close, holding them tightly against himself. Now he's glowing again, but this time it feels more like excitement than magic. He's clearly proud. This is something he was supposed to find, and he actually did. Still holding onto the coffee, he lands on another desk and looks around again. His attention moves across the surface, keyboard, mug, small items, until he notices a box sitting off to the side. He tilts his head slightly, curious, then edges closer to inspect it. He hovers over it for a second, thinking it through. He's already got something, but maybe this could be useful too. After a brief pause, that hesitation fades, replaced with a bit of quiet confidence. If it might help, he's taking it. With everything gathered, he shifts his focus again. His body straightens slightly, wings pulling in as that golden glow starts building around him once more. The energy gathers quickly this time, brighter than before. In a sudden flash, the light bursts outward, filling the space around the desk for just a moment. And then he's gone. The office falls back into silence just as quickly. The desk sits there again, now missing a few items, faint sparkles of light slowly fading where he was. For a second, it feels like nothing even happened. Then the camera tilts upward, mounted high on the wall. A security camera sits quietly, its small red light still on, pointed directly at the scene. The scene opens on the farm already full of movement. Mushroom ants are everywhere, moving in small groups, each of them carrying baskets that honestly look too big for their size. Some are filled with peppers, others with carrots and corn, and they move in rhythm, letting out short, coordinated chants as they go. It's not chaotic, it's organized, like they've already settled into a system. A little further back, Sejun stands watching. He doesn't interrupt, just quietly taking it in, clearly impressed by how smoothly everything is running. There's a small reaction from him, almost under his breath, like he didn't expect things to go this well this fast. He's standing with his arms crossed, posture relaxed but attentive. Around him, the rest of the group is gathered, Papa Rabbit, Kwon, and Garen, all watching the same scene from slightly different angles. In front of them, a few ants struggle a bit with a particularly large basket of sweet potatoes, adjusting their grip as they keep moving forward without stopping. Sejun's expression shifts into something more satisfied as he watches them work. From his point of view, it's clear, they're not just helping, they're actually getting used to it. The focus moves to Papa Rabbit, who's been staring at the ants a little too intensely. His ears are slightly stiff, and there's a bit of sweat forming as he watches them carry loads that would normally take more effort. It's not fear exactly, more like he's realizing he's not the only hard worker here anymore. Sejun notices right away. He glances at him, a small smile forming, and lightly teases him about it, pointing out that he looks like he's starting to feel competitive. That gets Papa Rabbit's attention, but before he can react properly, Sejun shifts his tone. He leans down slightly so they're more on the same level, his expression softening. He brings up how long they've been working together, reminding him that this farm didn't just appear, it was built step by step, with him there from the beginning. Then he extends that trust a bit further, asking him to take the lead with the new workers, to guide them properly. The way he says it makes it clear, it's not just a task, it's recognition. That lands immediately. Papa Rabbit's whole posture changes. The hesitation disappears, replaced with something much brighter. His eyes light up, and there's this clear shift from doubt to pride. Being called a senior hits exactly where it should. He straightens up, chest puffed out slightly, energy completely flipped now. When he responds, it's immediate and confident, like he's been waiting for that exact push. Sejun watches the reaction with a quiet smile, not saying much more because he doesn't need to. The moment settles for a second, and then it breaks. From a distance, Theo comes running in, calling out as they approach. The energy shifts almost instantly as he comes into view, moving quickly toward them, clearly excited. Sejun turns at the sound, and the second he recognizes him, his reaction is immediate. There's no pause. He calls out his name, surprised and relieved at the same time. Kwon reacts too, his attention snapping toward Theo with his own excited response. Garen steps forward slightly, more composed, greeting Theo properly and acknowledging that he made it back safely. Theo slows down as he reaches them, looking around with curiosity. His attention lands on the ants first, clearly confused about what he's seeing, asking about them while still catching his breath from running. But Sejun doesn't let the moment stay calm. Before Theo can even fully settle, Sejun steps forward, grabs him, and lifts him up without warning. The shift is immediate, his expression tightens, and all that held back worry comes out at once. He starts firing off questions one after another, not waiting for answers, jumping from one concern to the next. Theo just hangs there, completely caught off guard, trying to process what's happening. Sejun keeps going, not slowing down at all, checking on everyone, everything, every situation he's been worried about. And then, mid-sentence, it stops. Theo reaches out with one paw and presses it right against Sejun's mouth. It's simple, but it works instantly. Sejun freezes, eyes still wide, but finally quiet. Theo lowers his paw slightly, still calm, completely unfazed compared to the chaos from a second ago. He suggests, in a much more controlled way, that they should just sit down and talk things through properly instead of rushing like this. The tension drops almost immediately after that. The scene shifts away from the group, opening up into a wide, clear sky. The noise and urgency from before are gone, replaced with something much calmer. Sejun's voice comes through more lightly now, the relief finally catching up to him as he realizes things turned out okay. Sejun just sits on the ground like someone who's finally allowed himself to breathe again. He has Theo resting comfortably in his lap, casually feeding him while everything around them feels calm again. Looking up, Sejun's mood shifts into something lighter. He starts talking about how, once everyone's properly back, they should celebrate something big, something fun. You can tell he means it. Right beside him, Kwon instantly picks up on that word party and gets excited in that simple, pure way, like he didn't even need the full sentence to be convinced. Garen stays nearby too, relaxed, just taking in the moment without saying much. Theo, meanwhile, is multitasking, eating and reporting at the same time. Between bites, he casually brings up that he stopped by another floor to sell crops to humans, following instructions properly, even handing out those special green onions for planting. The way he says it is almost businesslike, just with that natural cat-like rhythm. Sejun's reaction is immediate. He leans in, clearly impressed, and reaches up to pat Theo's head without holding back. Theo doesn't resist at all, if anything, he leans into it, eyes closing like he's been waiting for that exact moment. Sejun praises him openly, and it feels earned. Then Theo's tone shifts slightly. Still calm, but now he starts talking about something unexpected, meeting a white dragon. That one detail alone changes the air. He explains how it happened in the Red Ribbon Kingdom's treasury, and even without dramatic wording, you can tell it wasn't a small encounter. For a moment, he genuinely thought things were over, until something involving White Rabbit's ribbons suddenly turned the situation around. Sejun freezes a bit hearing that, the reaction coming more from the weight of what was said than how it was said. Even Garen subtly leans in from the side, attention caught. It's clear Theo's trip wasn't as simple as it first sounded. And then, before that tension even has time to settle, a loud voice cuts through everything. It calls out Sejun's name directly. The shift is immediate. Sejun, still on the ground with Theo in his arms, looks up. Kwon and Garen react at the same time, all of them caught off guard. That quiet, peaceful farm atmosphere gets interrupted in an instant. A massive white dragon drops into the farm, landing hard enough to kick up dust and scatter debris across the crops. The scale difference alone is enough. Sejun looks tiny sitting there while the dragon's presence fills the space. But instead of attacking, the dragon simply extends a bowl and asks for more food. It's loud, direct, and oddly specific. Then Theo, who absolutely does not handle it well. He bolts, panic hitting instantly, his reaction completely overpowering the situation. Even Kwon looks surprised by how intense that response is. Sejun stays where he is, caught between confusion and trying to understand what's going on. Meanwhile, the dragon's attention shifts toward Theo, narrowing slightly like it recognizes something. That's when the exchange starts, both of them reacting at once, overlapping in confusion. Theo immediately jumps to the conclusion that the dragon shouldn't even be here, bringing up past events like exile, clearly shaken. The dragon, on the other hand, seems equally confused, trying to place Theo in referencing someone else connected to him. The whole thing builds into a messy back and forth that's going nowhere. So Sejun steps in. He gets up, positions himself between them, hands raised, not aggressively, just enough to stop things from escalating. Then he tells them to calm down. Not loudly, not dramatically, just firmly enough that it lands. Theo ends up clinging to Sejun's leg, still shaken, while Kwon watches him closely, clearly trying to understand why he's reacting like that. Sejun follows it up by laying down a simple rule: no fighting here. Not on his farm. It's direct, and it feels final. Then Kwon steps in, holding up a red pepper like he's presenting the obvious solution to everything. His logic is simple: if everyone just eats something good, they'll feel better. The delivery is so straightforward it actually cuts through the tension. Sejun picks him up right after, naturally approving, giving him that small bit of praise that makes Kwon light up again. In the background, the white dragon is still there, holding the same empty bowl. Now quieter, almost awkwardly patient, repeating the same request, but this time without any intensity, just waiting. Then a warm light glow spreads across the farm, bright enough that Sejun instinctively narrows his eyes a little. He's holding Kwon in his arms, steadying him as they both look toward the light. Right in the middle of it, a small figure comes flying in, bat, practically shining with excitement. He calls out as he approaches, clearly thrilled to be back, his whole entrance filled with energy. There are little sparkles around him, and in his tiny hands he's clutching a bunch of yellow packets along with a bright green box, holding them carefully like they matter. Once he lands, everyone naturally gathers closer. Sejun lowers himself into the pepper field so he's at Bat-Bat's level, greeting him with an easy smile and asking what he managed to find. Bat-Bat immediately hands everything over, clearly proud, almost bouncing in place as he does. Around them, Kwon, Theo, and Garen all lean in without saying much, just curious to see what he brought back. Sejun takes the yellow sticks first and looks at them properly. The moment he recognizes them, his reaction shifts into genuine approval. It's instant coffee mix, something actually useful. He acknowledges it right away, clearly impressed, before shifting his attention to the green box Bat-Bat was holding so carefully. He turns it slightly, looking at the design, and that's when the surprise hits. He recognizes it as that familiar snack brand, which catches him off guard for a second. Bat-Bat explains his reasoning in a simple, honest way. He picked it because of the fish on the box, thinking it would suit Theo. That lands immediately. Theo reacts without hesitation, clearly touched just by the thought behind it, his attention fully on Bat-Bat now. Even Garen quietly shows approval from the side, a small but noticeable gesture. Sejun, though, gently points out the misunderstanding. Holding the box, he explains that despite the design, there isn't actually any real fish inside. The moment that sinks in, Bat-Bat's expression drops a bit. He questions himself right away, worried he might have brought something useless. Sejun doesn't let that sit for even a second. As he opens the box and pours out the contents, small fish-shaped crackers, he reassures him calmly that it's not useless at all. He takes a bite almost immediately, and his reaction says everything. His face brightens in a very real way, like he wasn't expecting to enjoy it that much. He comments on it as he keeps eating, appreciating the taste and texture in a way that feels genuine rather than exaggerated. It's simple, salty, crunchy, familiar, and that familiarity seems to matter. The others naturally gather a bit closer while he eats. Theo leans in slightly, sniffing the air with quiet curiosity, noting that it actually smells decent. No big reaction, just a small observation. Sejun, still in that relaxed mood, pulls out the coffee sticks next and casually suggests making some. That immediately catches Kwon's attention. He doesn't even fully understand it, but he's interested. Bat-Bat, on the other hand, is just watching Sejun, clearly happy that what he brought is being enjoyed. That feeling builds up enough that Bat-Bat suddenly starts singing. It's spontaneous, a little dramatic in its own way, but clearly sincere, his way of expressing gratitude. The tone is heartfelt, even if the delivery is a bit unexpected. Sejun reacts exactly how you'd expect. He laughs, not mocking, just caught off guard, asking what that was supposed to be. Kwon joins in with simple encouragement, clapping and praising him without overthinking it. And then, while all that is happening, something completely different unfolds on the side. Theo, still focused on the snacks, ends up pushing a bit too far trying to get the last bits from the box, and gets stuck. His head goes all the way in before he realizes it, and when he tries to pull back, it doesn't work. There's a brief pause, then panic. He starts stumbling around blindly, calling out for help, clearly disoriented. His movements are clumsy, paws reaching out with no sense of direction. Garen, caught in the middle of this, ends up reacting late, watching the whole thing unfold before somehow ending up along for the ride. Sejun sees it, and instead of reacting immediately, he just breaks into laughter. Not because it's serious, but because the situation looks exactly as ridiculous as it is. Theo, hearing Sejun's voice, tries to move toward him, still unable to see, making the whole thing even more chaotic. Garen holds on as best as he can, clearly not expecting to be part of this. After letting it play out for a moment, Sejun finally steps in. He reaches down and simply lifts the box off Theo's head. Theo reappears looking completely shaken, eyes wide and slightly watery, like the experience was far worse than it actually was. Garen peeks up from behind him at the same time, quietly relieved now that everything's back to normal. With Theo basically glued to Sejun's leg, he's pressed his face into the fabric, holding on tight like he's not planning to let go anytime soon. You can tell he's still shaken, quietly sniffling as he calls out to Sejun. Sejun looks down at him, the earlier laughter clearly catching up to him now. There's a bit of guilt in his expression as he gently asks if Theo's actually crying. Around them, Kwon, Bat-Bat, and Garen are all watching, no one interrupting, just taking in the moment with a mix of concern and mild disbelief. Then Kwon, being Kwon, can't resist pointing something out. He notices Theo's runny nose and says it out loud with a cheeky grin. Theo immediately pushes back, trying to hold on to whatever dignity he has left, denying it while still sniffling a bit. Sejun steps in softly, patting Theo's head in a calm, reassuring way. He tries to comfort him, explaining that reactions like this are normal after getting scared. It's meant to be kind, but it doesn't quite land that way. Theo pulls back just enough to look up, clearly offended. To him, it sounds less like comfort and more like teasing, and he says as much. There's a small pause as that sinks in, and then he turns away completely, crossing his paws with a quiet huff. He mentions that he actually brought something important from the treasure vault, but now he doesn't feel like giving it anymore. The attitude shift is immediate. He's gone from clingy to stubborn in seconds. Sejun tries to calm things down, holding his hands out a little as he talks to him, but Theo doesn't budge. From the side, Garen just watches the standoff unfold without stepping in. So Sejun switches tactics. With a small, almost playful apology, he leans in and goes straight for tickling. The reaction is instant. Theo jerks in surprise, completely caught off guard as he tries to squirm away. His paws start flailing, his whole body tensing before breaking into uncontrollable laughter. It doesn't take long before the others join in, Kwon and Bat Bat both leaning into the moment, turning it into a full group pile. The tension melts pretty quickly. Theo's protests turn into laughter, his earlier frustration fading as he tries to push them away without much success. Even Garen stays close, watching the chaos with quiet approval. Eventually, Theo gives in. Still catching his breath, he reaches out and finally hands over what he'd been holding back, a rolled-up scroll. Sejun takes it, his expression shifting into curiosity as he looks it over. He turns it in his hands, trying to figure out what it is, while Theo just lies there on the ground, completely drained from everything that just happened. Kwon watches closely, eyes locked on the scroll like it might somehow turn into food if he stares long enough. Sejun focuses, holding the scroll properly now, his attention narrowing as he inspects it more carefully. At the same time, the scene shifts elsewhere. We see Aileen from behind, standing in a space filled with soft, glowing blue light. She's in her humanoid form, wings slightly spread, clearly energized. There's a sense of excitement in the way she moves. She's just realized she can maintain this form now, even if only briefly. In front of her, a floating orb shows Sejun. She watches him closely, grateful, already thinking about meeting him properly one day. But then something changes. Her expression tightens as she notices what he's about to do. She leans in toward the orb, suddenly tense, trying to warn him, but there's no way for her voice to reach in time. Back on the farm, Sejun opens the scroll. Immediately, everything shifts. A series of system messages begin triggering one after another. The scroll isn't just paper, it's a land deed, tied to a higher floor of the tower. The system recognizes it, notes that ownership hasn't been updated in over a century, and starts a registration process on the spot. Sejun doesn't even have time to react properly before the process begins. A golden light starts forming around him, growing brighter by the second. He looks completely caught off guard, trying to make sense of what's happening as the energy builds. On his shoulder, Bat Bat clings tightly, just as confused. Then the light erupts. A massive pillar shoots upward from where Sejun is standing, swallowing him completely. The brightness takes over the entire space, leaving only his silhouette visible for a brief moment before even that disappears. Nearby, the white dragon watches without moving, its gaze fixed on the scene. Below, Kwon, Theo, and Garen are left staring up at the light, frozen in place. As it fades, the field returns to normal, but Sejun is gone. Theo stands there, still trying to process it, while Kwon looks shaken, barely managing to call out. The spot where Sejun was is now empty, nothing left but a faint trace of light. The group remains where they are, facing that empty space in silence. Subscribe. Comment. It starts with this sudden, overwhelming burst of golden light just exploding upward from the ground, like a pillar shooting straight into the sky. Right in the middle of all that energy, you can barely make out Sejun's silhouette. He's crouched low, almost bracing himself, because the teleportation magic isn't gentle at all, it's swirling around him like a full-on storm. Then the light begins to die down. Sejun is left standing there, squinting hard, clearly struggling to see properly. He winces a bit, blinking repeatedly like he's trying to get rid of the afterimage burned into his eyes. A few faint sparks of golden mana are still drifting in the air, and he lets out this tired groan, the kind that says his body hasn't caught up with what just happened. Once he steadies himself a little, he finally looks around. And that's when it hits him, he's not where he was before. He's standing in the middle of a dense jungle. Thick trees, heavy foliage, tall palms stretching up into a tight canopy overhead. The place feels humid, quiet, a little too quiet. He's holding a rolled-up document in his hand, staring at it and then at his surroundings, completely confused, quietly questioning what just happened to him. The view pulls back a bit, really showing how deep and overgrown this place is. Everything feels old, untouched, almost suffocating with how dense it is. Then, right in front of his eyes, a system window pops up. It's a land deed. It states that this area is now his farm, located on the 77th floor of the Black Tower, and once the imprinting process is complete, he'll officially be recognized as the owner. Sejun just freezes for a second, then his jaw drops. He realizes he's been sent all the way up to the 77th floor, and his first reaction isn't excitement, it's panic. He immediately starts thinking about the 99th floor, wondering how he's supposed to get back there from here. Before he can even process that properly, more system messages start appearing. This time, the tone shifts, bright red warning text. It says the farm data is being processed, but there's a problem. The land is currently under illegal occupation by unidentified entities. Sejun just stares at the message, repeating illegal occupation under his breath, like his brain is trying to catch up with what that actually means. Slowly, the weight of it settles in. He looks around again, this time more critically. The place looks rough, overgrown, cracked in places, not really what you'd imagine when you hear the word farm. He even mutters that calling this a farm feels like a stretch. It looks more like a dying jungle than anything usable. And right then, out of nowhere, a voice agrees with him. It comes from just behind his shoulder. Sejun flinches hard, almost jumping out of his skin, and spins around instantly. There's Bat, hovering right behind him. Still startled, Sejun blurts out, asking when he even got there, clearly not expecting company. His heart's still racing from the surprise. Bat, on the other hand, is completely relaxed. He just lets out a small, playful giggle and casually explains that he must have been teleported along with Sejun during the blast. Now Sejun just stands there, taking it all in again, but this time with the realization that it's just the two of them here, surrounded by this massive, unfamiliar jungle, stuck on the 77th floor. He mutters that things are looking pretty bad. Bat notices immediately. Trying to help, he puffs up a little, closes his eyes, and strikes this tiny heroic pose mid-air. With full confidence, he declares that he'll protect Sejun, wings fluttering like he's ready to take on anything. It's a nice moment, but it barely lasts. Out of nowhere, there's a sharp sound from above, like something cutting through the air. A thick rope net drops straight down. Bat doesn't even have time to react properly before he gets caught mid-air, scooped up instantly. He lets out a startled cry as the net wraps around him. Sejun reacts immediately, reaching out toward him and shouting his name, completely caught off guard. Everything after that happens fast. Sejun lunges forward, trying to get to him, but before he can do anything, another net drops. This one's aimed directly at him. Bat, already trapped, screams out master, as Sejun looks up, eyes wide, realizing too late what's happening. The net slams down over him. It pins his arms tight to his sides, knocks his straw hat crooked, and forces a grunt out of him as the impact hits. He tries to struggle, muscles tensing against the ropes, but it's no use, the net is too heavy, too tight. In the next second, both nets jerk upward violently. Sejun and Bat are yanked off the ground, hanging upside down in midair. Sejun lets out a startled shout as the world flips, while Bat cries out again, both of them swinging helplessly. They dangle there, disoriented, the jungle spinning beneath them. And then, the ones responsible finally show themselves. From the trees, shapes begin to move. Monkeys, a whole group of them, emerging from the branches and shadows. Their eyes glow a sharp yellow, giving them a much more threatening presence than normal animals. Some sit perched above, watching. Others stand closer, gripping crude spears, chattering loudly in aggressive tones. They've completely surrounded the two of them. Sejun hangs there, upside down, sweat slowly dripping down his face as he looks through the gaps in the rope at the creatures below. Still catching his breath, still trying to process everything, he just stares at them and mutters, almost blankly, "Monkeys?" And just like that, it clicks, these are the illegal occupants. Theo and Kwon are just standing there in the middle of the field, surrounded by crops, both of them looking completely lost. It's one of those moments where everything was normal a second ago, and now it suddenly isn't. Kwon is the first to break. He looks around, small hands slightly raised like he's expecting Sejun to just pop back into view, and asks, worried, "Where did Papa go?" His voice has that soft panic in it, like he already knows something's wrong but doesn't understand what. Theo's ears twitch, and he scans the area again, just as confused. He mutters to himself, trying to make sense of it, but clearly, he's got nothing. Then, from above, the white dragon steps in and casually explains what happened. According to him, the magic inside a land deed must have activated, which means Sejun got forcefully teleported to another floor of the tower. He says it like it's obvious, like this kind of thing just happens. But even as he explains it, he looks mildly irritated. Glancing down at them, he comments that for someone who's an administrator of the Black Tower, Sejun was being pretty sloppy. Not panicked, just judging him a little. Theo doesn't care about that part at all. He immediately looks up and asks how they can bring Chairman Park back. You can tell he's focused, no hesitation, just straight to the solution. The white dragon lets out a small scoff, almost amused, and says that if he stepped in, he could bring Sejun back instantly. There's a bit of pride in his tone too, like he's reminding everyone who he is. Then he actually starts considering going to the 77th floor himself. And that's exactly when it goes wrong. Before he can even finish the thought, boom, Kaiser's fist comes down straight onto his head. It's not subtle. It's a heavy, clean hit. Who knows what kind of trouble you'll cause again? Kaiser roars, cutting him off completely. The white dragon recoils from the hit, letting out a pained groan, clearly not expecting to get smacked mid-sentence like that. Kaiser doesn't stop there. He immediately starts scolding him, not like an equal, but like a misbehaving kid who just said something dumb. The white dragon tries to defend himself, raising his voice, saying he was just trying to help, but Kaiser shuts that down instantly. He orders him not to even think about leaving his sight and basically grounds him right there on the 99th floor. Meanwhile, down below, Theo and Kwon are just watching this whole exchange happen in the sky. And honestly, it barely even matters to them. Kwon is still stuck on the main issue. He's fidgeting now, clearly stressed, pointing out that not only is Sejun gone, but Bat is missing too. That thought hits a bit harder. Now it's not just one person, they both disappeared. Theo crosses his arms, thinking it through more calmly. They start wondering if the two of them got sent to the same place. Up above, Kaiser finally shifts his attention back down to them. His gaze locks onto the small group, and his tone changes, less aggressive now, more focused. He tells them to wait for a moment, explaining that he can't leave because he needs to keep an eye on Killian. Then he raises one of his massive claws. Energy starts gathering instantly. A bright, swirling blue light forms around his hand, and it's not subtle at all. Sparks crackle through the air like lightning, the pressure of it heavy enough that you can almost feel it even from below. This isn't some small spell, he's putting real power into this. The energy condenses, tightening into a single point in his palm. Then he lowers his claw toward them and says, simply, take this. The light begins to fade, and what's left behind is a small, ornate compass resting in his palm. It's glowing faintly, almost like it's alive, with a steady pulse of energy running through it. Kaiser explains that it's a special compass, one that can detect the mark of an intermediate administrator. In other words, it'll point straight to Sejun. Kwon carefully takes it in both paws, holding it close. He looks down at it, eyes wide, not just impressed, but focused now. There's something grounding about finally having a direction. Next to him, Theo's already connecting things in his head. I think I heard Chairman Park mention the 77th floor farmland deed, he says, thinking out loud. His tail flicks slightly as he pieces it together, then he looks at Kwon and concludes that Sejun, and probably Bat too, were sent to the 77th floor. That clicks. You can actually see the shift happen in Kwon. The confusion and worry don't disappear, but they tighten into something more solid. His small hands curl into fists, and his expression hardens. He's not just standing there anymore, he's ready to move. Now it's not just about finding Sejun. It's personal. Theo stands beside him, steady as always, while Garen waits nearby, quiet but clearly on board. Kwon steps forward slightly, holding the compass tightly, and with a firm, determined voice says, I'll definitely find my dad. The scene cuts back to the 77th floor, and the first thing you feel is the heat. The sun is just brutal. It hangs high in a pale sky, blasting down without mercy, and the light is so harsh it almost washes everything out. Sejun is already feeling it. He lifts a hand and wipes the sweat off his forehead, wincing slightly under the shade of his wide straw hat. His face is flushed, his breathing a bit heavier, and he lets out a tired sigh. It's seriously hot, he mutters to himself, like he's already exhausted, and honestly, he kind of is. But yeah, the heat isn't even the real problem. Because right now, Sejun is locked inside a wooden cage. The cage rocks slightly with each step as it's carried through the jungle, surrounded by a whole troop of small monkeys. Some of them are gripping crude spears, others hopping along the sides, and right at the front, one of them is happily beating on a drum, boom, 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 like this is some kind of celebration. Their chanting fills the air, loud and rhythmic, as they march deeper into the forest with their prisoner. Sejun lowers his gaze, trying to stay calm, and then softly calls out, Bat, are you okay? His voice shifts there, less about himself, more about checking on the one person he knows is worse off than him. Off to the side of the cage, Bat is tied tightly to a wooden post, thick ropes wrapped around his small body. He looks up, eyes already glossy with tears, his little face completely scrunched with emotion. I am okay, he whimpers, even though he clearly isn't. Then his voice cracks as he keeps going, apologizing over and over. He says he's useless, that if Kwon or Garen were here, things would have been different. It's not even logical, it's just guilt spilling out. Sejun's expression softens immediately. He gives him a small, gentle smile, the kind that's calm on purpose. Don't worry, he says quietly. I'm just glad you're here. It's simple, but it lands. For a second, the panic eases just a little. Sejun then shifts his attention outward, glancing through the wooden bars of the cage. His eyes move carefully, observing. The monkeys are loud, chaotic, but not violent. Not yet. They're not attacking, they're transporting, and that's suspicious in its own way. Right then, a system window flickers into existence in front of him. A quest. It bluntly states that he needs to reclaim land rights from the illegally occupying monkeys in exchange for ownership of the farm. Sejun just stares at it, sitting in a cage, surrounded by monkeys, being carried somewhere unknown. And the system really chose this moment to give him a quest. His face goes blank for a second, like his brain is trying to decide whether to laugh or just give up. But before he can even process it, hey! Shut up in there! One of the monkeys suddenly spins around, baring its teeth as it shouts at him. The voice is sharp, aggressive, snapping him right out of his thoughts. Sejun immediately goes quiet, not exactly eager to test what happens next. As the march continues, things get weirder. At the back of the group, two monkeys start whispering to each other. Their tone isn't hostile, it's curious. One of them leans in and asks if those gorillas they're heading toward will actually take the human. Another monkey nearby, with bright, observant eyes, stares directly at Sejun. He tilts his head slightly, studying him like he's some kind of odd object. Then he shrugs and says they might as well offer him up anyway. After all, the human looks weird, but he's at least shaped kind of like them. There's a pause. Then another monkey bursts out laughing. He points straight at Sejun and mocks the idea completely, saying they don't look alike at all. To him, this isn't some distant cousin or anything. He's just uglier. That one lands. Hard. Sejun's expression slowly changes. The tired, confused look fades, replaced by something colder. A vein visibly pops on his forehead as that insult, and the situation finally settles in. He's not just captured. He's being evaluated and apparently losing. The monkeys keep talking like he's not even there. One of them casually adds that looks don't matter as long as the guy can survive. Then, almost as an afterthought, they mention that over 100 males have already died after marrying the gorilla tribe chief's daughter. That's the moment everything stops. It hits Sejun like a direct lightning strike. His face goes pale. His eyes widen. His whole body stiffens. What? Marrying? Gorilla? Died? His brain tries to process it, and immediately rejects it. Happily ever after just turned into a confirmed death route. Panic kicks in fast. Sejun turns sharply toward Bat, desperation written all over his face now. This isn't just a bad situation anymore, this is a get out immediately or die situation. Bat, he calls out, urgent. Can you still use your ability to go outside the tower? Bat looks back at him, still tied up, tears clinging to his eyes. Sejun doesn't hesitate. Go outside and bring back anything that can help us escape, he says quickly, his voice tight with urgency. Then, more firmly, because he means it, you're my only hope. That hits Bat right in the chest. For a second, he trembles, then his expression shifts. The fear doesn't disappear, but something else pushes through it. Determination. Okay, he shouts. I'll try my best. The moment gets loud enough that the guards notice. 2 monkeys immediately turn toward the cage, eyes narrowing. What's going on in there? One of them snaps. And right then, a golden glow starts to build inside the cage. It starts small, then intensifies rapidly. Before anyone can react properly, boom. A blinding pillar of light erupts straight upward from the center of the cage. It's sudden, violent, overwhelming. The monkeys panic instantly. Some scream. Others stumble back. A few shield their eyes, completely blinded by the flash as the light floods the entire area. The chanting stops. The formation breaks. For a moment, it's just chaos. Then, slowly, the light begins to fade. Golden particles drift down like embers, glowing softly as they dissolve into the air. One of the monkeys cautiously peeks from behind a post, eyes wide, mouth hanging open. What was that? He stammers. Inside the cage, Sejun is still there. He's sweating, one bead rolling down his face, but now he's wearing a small, confident smirk, clearly enjoying the confusion just a little. But when the dust fully settles, Bat is gone. The ropes that held him are still there, loosely coiled on the ground, faintly sparkling with the last traces of golden magic. Completely empty. The scene opens with a quiet breath. White Rabbit stands at the grand, arched entrance of the palace, just before stepping out. She takes a deep breath and lets it out slowly, like she's trying to steady everything inside her before facing what's ahead. Her long ears twitch slightly. Not random, nervous. But there's resolve there too. The golden crown on her head catches the light as she steps forward, and when she reaches the balcony, she looks out over the courtyard. It's filled. Rows and rows of rabbit citizens, all gathered, all looking up at her. She straightens. Then her voice rings out, loud and clear. My beloved citizens of the Red Ribbon Kingdom. It carries across the entire courtyard, strong enough to silence everything else. She doesn't rush. She starts by acknowledging everything they've gone through, the land that was taken from them, the time they lost, the weight it put on all of them. As she speaks, the crowd listens quietly, their faces tilted upward, completely focused. No distractions. Just her voice. She continues, her tone steady but heavy, talking about the damage, not just physical, but to their dignity. That part lands deeper. You can see it in their faces. Then she leans forward slightly over the stone railing. Her eyes close behind her round glasses, and her expression softens. I am truly sorry I could not be there to protect you. That one is personal. It's not a ruler speaking anymore, it's someone who feels like they failed her people. For a brief moment, the entire place feels still. Then she opens her eyes again. And now there's something different. They're wide, shining, not with regret anymore, but with determination. She places a paw firmly against her chest. But now, I swear to protect you for the rest of my life. That shift hits instantly. Down below, the reaction spreads through the crowd. Some rabbits wipe their eyes, others lean into each other. The tension that was sitting in everyone's chest starts to break. She doesn't stop there. She reminds them they're not alone anymore. That from now on, they stand together. No one falls by themselves again. Her posture straightens fully now, standing tall against the backdrop of the palace. And then, for the final push. Let us move forward together, for the Red Ribbon Kingdom. There's a split second of silence. Then the entire courtyard explodes. For the Red Ribbon Kingdom. The chant echoes everywhere. Rabbits raise their paws, voices overlapping, the sound bouncing off the palace walls like the whole place just came back to life. As she turns and walks back inside, the cheers follow her in. Long live the Queen! Long live the Queen! The echoes stretch into the hall as the doors close behind her. In the moment those doors shut, phew. She exhales hard, the tension leaving her body all at once. Inside, she's immediately met with applause. Black Rabbit and Iona are both there, clapping, clearly impressed. That was amazing, their reactions say without needing much more. White Rabbit lets out a small, nervous laugh. My legs were actually shaking, she admits, still catching her breath. And then, she stops mid-sentence. Her knees give out. Iona and Ganoba both react instantly, eyes widening as her body tilts forward. But before she can hit the ground, the Black Rabbit moves. Quick, precise, catching her in a warm embrace. The motion is smooth, almost instinctive. For a second, everything softens. There's this quiet, gentle moment as the two of them lean into each other, the tension replaced by something calmer, warmer. The black rabbit looks at her, smiling, but there's determination behind it. We'll always hold each other up, he says. So no one has to fall alone again. It's simple, direct, but it means everything in that moment. He reaches up and gently adjusts the golden crown on White Rabbit's head, making sure it sits properly again. Right? White Rabbit just stares back at him. Wide eyes. Slight blush. No words, but the answer's obvious. Off to the side, Iona watches the whole thing with a soft, knowing smile, like someone quietly witnessing something meaningful starting. But that softness doesn't last long. Her expression shifts slightly as she turns toward Genoba. Now the tone changes. The perspective widens, grounding the scene. Genoba looks at her, giving a nod. You've worked hard, Iona. Then his expression tightens. He brings up the corruption, the fact that greed managed to bribe the entire inspection bureau. Even saying it sounds ridiculous. He exhales, shaking his head slightly. I didn't see it coming, not until the Mage Association contacted me. There's frustration there, and a bit of disbelief. Then he gives a faint, almost amused smile. First Tarek, and now this. He glances at her. It's starting to feel like problems just solve themselves wherever you go. There's a hint of teasing, but also genuine curiosity. Is this what they call the prestige of the Tower Master of Gravity? Iona lets out a small chuckle. You're quite the flatterer. But then her expression softens, and she looks slightly away. Quietly, almost under her breath. This is mostly thanks to the Great Black Dragon. It's honest, respectful. Genoba leans in slightly. Pardon? She immediately snaps back, a quick chuckle covering it. It's nothing. Back to professional. Clean. Controlled. Genoba doesn't push it. Instead, he shifts topics. I have a message from the Magic Council. Now it's serious. He explains that a reliable report detected the energy of a holy stone on the upper floors. As he speaks, the image of it appears, a glowing purple crystal, pulsing with energy, floating above a metallic base. Iona reacts immediately. A small bead of sweat forms as her eyes sharpen. You mean, the star fragment that fell long ago? Her tone is careful now. Exactly. Genoba confirms it without hesitation. If the report is true, the Mage Association needs to secure it, no matter what. He scratches the back of his head, suddenly looking a bit awkward. I've been assigned to retrieve it. Then, more carefully. Would you come with me? There's a pause. Iona doesn't hesitate. Of course. Her face lights up with determination almost instantly. I'm ready. Then she asks, practical as always. Which floor? Genoba visibly relaxes. Wow, thank you. Then he answers, the 77th floor. The scene shifts again. The jungle comes back into view. From above, you see it clearly this time, a massive encampment hidden within dense tropical forest. At the center is a wide dirt arena, marked with a dark, intricate ritual seal carved into the ground. Around it, structures rise, watchtowers, wooden walls, gates with tiled roofs. It's not random. It's organized. Built. And at the base of the path leading in, the monkeys return. They push the wooden cage forward, chatter echoing as they escort their prisoner deeper inside. Inside that cage, Sejun grips the wooden bars, his straw hat slightly crooked now. He looks tired. Worried. One monkey has climbed on top of the cage, peering down at him with wide, curious eyes, like he's inspecting something strange. But the rest aren't just curious anymore. They're aggressive. Hey! Tell us the truth. The shout comes sharp as the cage rolls forward, wheels grinding against the dirt. The air feels tighter now. Another monkey steps forward, glaring directly at him. Where did that little furball who was with you go? That's what this is about. Sejun shuts his eyes tightly, his face tightening as sweat runs down his temple. I told you, I don't know. He shouts it back, voice strained. He's holding the line, but barely. The cage keeps moving. The noise doesn't stop. But inside his head, everything shifts. His thoughts drift away from the monkeys, to one person. Please come back soon, Bat.
Like, share.
The office building stands tall under the night sky, most of the city already asleep, but up here, a few windows are still lit, including one where things are not peaceful at all. Inside, Moonlight is already heated. She turns sharply toward her coworker, one hand pressed to her chest as she fires off, basically accusing him straight up, asking if he took her snack again. Her tone isn't even doubtful at this point, it's personal. Aaron just stands there holding his iced coffee, completely thrown off. He blinks at her like he just got dragged into something he doesn't understand, but she doesn't let up. She reminds him he already got caught once before with her jelly, so this isn't exactly a fresh accusation. From the side, Manager Huang glances over, a bit tense, watching the situation escalate. Moonlight turns to her next, clearly looking for backup, or at least confirmation of where her food disappeared to. Moonlight's eyes drift down to her desk, or more specifically, the empty spot where her snack should have been. Her expression drops. She's genuinely upset now, almost on the verge of tears. Meanwhile, Aaron looks between her and the desk, still confused, basically asking why she's looking at him like he's the culprit. Then he admits, kind of awkwardly, that he thought the jelly was for everyone. That only makes things worse. Manager Huang quickly steps in, trying to calm things down, offering to just buy more snacks to fix it. But Moonlight suddenly freezes, something else clicks. Her coffee's gone too. Now both her and Manager Huang slowly turn their heads toward Aaron. Aaron, meanwhile, is still stuck processing the original accusation, like his brain hasn't even caught up to the second charge yet. Moonlight exhales sharply, clearly done relying on anyone, and starts digging through her bag. After a moment, she pulls out backup food, bananas. Relief hits her face for a second, but it's immediately replaced with suspicion again as she firmly tells him to stay away from her food. Aaron raises a hand, still defending himself, insisting he didn't take anything. Moonlight shoots back sarcastically, basically asking if a ghost came and stole her snacks instead, and right then, something weird happens. A faint glow starts forming around her. Both of them freeze. The light grows stronger, pulsing right in the middle of the office, and before either of them can react properly, a bat-shaped silhouette suddenly forms out of nowhere. They just stare. The light fades, and there he is, Bat, tiny, wide-eyed, just sitting there like he also has no idea how he got here. For a split second, everything is dead quiet. Then Aaron completely loses it. He basically screams that there's a giant bat in the office, his voice cracking as he panics. Moonlight also recoils, shrinking back in shock. Bat, meanwhile, looks at them and panics even harder. He shouts back, calling them huge humans, his tiny body shaking, clearly more scared than they are. And then, a banana flies through the air. Thud, direct hit to Bat's face. Everything just spirals from there. The office workers start freaking out even more, shouting over each other, trying to figure out where that even came from and why this is happening. In the back, Manager Huang just stands there, completely lost, like her brain has officially given up. Bat slowly grabs the bananas, eyes watering. He's trembling, trying to process this terrifying place full of giants. Then, in pure panic, he pushes the bananas forward, basically offering them like a peace gift, desperately trying to fix whatever this situation is. But before anything else can happen, that same golden light wraps around him again. The brightness explodes across the desk, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. The air fills with that same strange energy for a brief moment. And then it's gone. Bat disappears. Silence. Moonlight just stands there, staring at the empty space where everything just happened. Her mind doesn't even go to the creature first. She quietly realizes her bananas are gone. Her voice drops as she mutters, heartbroken, about her bananas disappearing. Behind her, Aaron snaps, clearly fed up now, pointing out that he told her it wasn't him this whole time. Then, after a short pause, his tone softens. He steps closer and offers her his iced coffee, holding it out awkwardly as an apology, for the jelly incident, for everything. He mentions she's been working overtime a lot and should at least drink something for energy. Moonlight blinks, caught off guard, letting out a small, confused reaction before slowly accepting the gesture, thanking him a bit shyly. But even as the moment softens, Aaron glances around, still unsettled, wondering out loud what that thing even was, and says he'll contact security so she doesn't have to worry. Moonlight nods, still processing everything, quietly thanking him again. And in the background, Manager Huang just watches the entire situation, the chaos, the weird emotional shift, the supernatural nonsense, all of it. Her shoulders slump as she sighs under her breath, completely drained, wishing she could just quit on the spot. Sejun gets dragged in front of what is very clearly the boss of this place, a monkey king lounging on a throne, casually patting one of his little offspring like this is just another normal day. The king tilts his head down, looking at Sejun with open confusion first, then that confusion quickly turns into straight-up disgust. He basically questions what this thing even is, then doubles down by bluntly calling Sejun ugly without any hesitation. One of the guards steps forward and explains the situation, calmly saying they found Sejun during a forest patrol and thought he might be useful, maybe even as an offering to some gorillas. Sejun, standing there tied up and already exhausted, just lets out a tired sigh like, of course this is happening now. Meanwhile, the Monkey King isn't even fully focused on him anymore. His expression shifts, irritation creeping in as he starts thinking about someone named Gorian. The mood tightens a bit. He's clearly not happy, muttering about how if the next proposal gets rejected, he's ready to go all in on war. It's the kind of tone that makes it obvious this isn't just talk, he means it. Around him, though, his little offspring just look completely uninterested, like they've heard this speech before. Then just like that, the king snaps back to the present and gives a sharp order, deal with the human, lock him back up. No ceremony, nothing. A guard immediately follows through, kicking Sejun back toward a wooden cage like he's just another piece of baggage. While doing it, the monkey throws in a couple of insults for good measure, mocking his face and telling him to go get along with the gorillas. Sejun hits the ground inside the cage, groaning as the dust settles around him. He mutters under his breath, clearly irritated, saying if his hands weren't tied right now, this would have gone very differently. But that frustration fades pretty quickly, replaced by something quieter. He lowers his voice, almost to himself, admitting how much he misses Aileen and the others. And right then, a sudden golden light bursts into existence near the cage. It's bright enough to make him flinch, and before he can even react properly, a familiar voice calls out to him, full of emotion. Bat appears right out of that light, clutching something tightly, already tearing up as he rushes towards Sejun and calls him master like he's been holding that in the entire time. Sejun just stares for a second, completely caught off guard. Bat doesn't even wait, he immediately starts apologizing, voice shaking, explaining that he did find other humans, but he couldn't bring back anything useful. Nothing good. As he says that, Sejun's eyes drop to what Bat's holding. A bunch of bananas. He blinks, a little surprised, and asks if that is what he managed to bring back. Bat, still emotional, doesn't even defend himself, he just keeps apologizing while fumbling with the ropes tied around Sejun's hands, quickly working to loosen them. The ropes finally come off. And instead of complaining, Sejun immediately softens. He reassures Bat in a calm, steady voice, telling him it's completely fine. What matters is that he came back, and he even brought food. Bat pauses, sniffling a bit, clearly not expecting that reaction. Sejun reaches down, picks up one of the bananas, and without overthinking it, decides they should just eat together right there. He starts peeling it open, and casually offers a bite toward Bat. Bat freezes for a second, then those big eyes of his well up again, but this time, not from panic. The banana might as well be glowing in his reflection. He leans in slowly and takes a small bite. He chews, and his entire expression changes. Like, completely. He lights up, genuinely shocked by how good it is, going on about how he's never tasted anything like this before. He describes it in his own way, soft, fluffy, even saying it smells kind of like flowers. Sejun can't help but smile at that. There's something about how serious Bat is being over a banana that makes it land. Bat keeps going, clearly enjoying every bite, while Sejun finally takes one himself and nods in agreement. It's actually pretty good, but the moment doesn't stay light for long. Sejun's expression shifts slightly as a thought crosses his mind. If Bat found these near other humans, then that means someone else might be nearby. Before he can think too deeply about it, there's movement outside the cage. One of the monkeys approaches, drawn in by the smell. He leans in, eyes narrowing, and immediately starts shouting, demanding to know what they're eating. His tone turns aggressive fast, throwing insults at Bat, calling him a little furball and accusing him of hiding food. Both Sejun and Bat freeze. Bat lets out a small, panicked cry, instinctively shrinking back. Sejun reacts instantly, pulling Bat behind him and positioning himself in front like a shield. His body tenses, ready to act if things go south, even thinking about using his thunder ability if it comes to that. But then, something weird happens. The monkey suddenly stops mid-rant. His expression shifts, his eyes literally turning into the shape of bananas. All that anger, gone, replaced by pure, overwhelming awe. He starts trembling, then hopping slightly, completely losing composure as he stares at the banana like it's some kind of sacred object. His voice changes tone entirely as he starts praising Sejun, calling him something along the lines of a chosen figure tied to bananas, like this is some long-awaited prophecy. Sejun just stares, not even reacting at first, and before he can question it, the monkey drops flat onto the ground in full prostration, bowing with absolute devotion, continuing to chant and praise like he's witnessing something divine. The shift is so sudden it doesn't even feel real. Inside the cage, Sejun slowly crouches down, still holding the banana in his hand, staring at the scene in front of him like his brain is trying, and failing, to process how things escalated from getting bullied to being worshipped in under 10 seconds. The scene opens on the 99th floor of the Black Tower, and everything about it feels harsh and empty. Wind sweeps across the ground, kicking up dust, and in the distance there's this massive, jagged spire rising up near a glowing transfer point that hums with energy. Near that structure, a Minotaur guard steps forward and announces that visitors from the farm have arrived to see the boss. Right behind him, Kwon is standing there with this absurdly oversized backpack strapped to his back. Beside him are Theo and Garen, both facing forward as they wait. Kwon calls out warmly toward the throne, greeting the Bull King like he's meeting an old friend. Up above, seated high on his throne, Uma looks down at them. He doesn't react immediately, just studies them for a second before asking, in a calm but firm tone, what brought them all the way here. Theo steps forward to answer, keeping things direct. He says they need to use the transfer point. Then he quickly adds the important part, Chairman Park Sejun has been teleported to the 77th floor, and they need to go after him right away. Uma's expression shifts almost instantly. There's no hesitation. He agrees without questioning anything further, making it clear that he owes Park Sejun a debt he hasn't forgotten. Then, almost as if it's the most natural thing, he decides to help more directly. He signals that he'll send some of his own subordinates along with them. 2 Minotaurs step forward, a female and another male, and they greet Kwon casually. The moment they notice his backpack, though, they can't help but laugh a little at how ridiculously huge it is. Kwon, completely proud of it, explains that the rabbit uncles packed it full of snacks for him. No embarrassment, just pure confidence. With everything settled, Theo claps things into motion, rallying everyone to head out immediately. They all gather in front of the transfer point, a towering blue crystal swirling with energy. It hums louder the closer they get, the light reflecting across their faces. Without wasting time, the group jumps in together. One by one, they disappear into the swirling blue light. Kwon, Theo, the 2 Minotaurs, and then Garen doesn't. Instead of vanishing with the others, he suddenly tumbles backward like he hit an invisible wall. He lands awkwardly and bounces across the floor, letting out a confused little ha as he rolls. Up on the throne, Uma watches this happen, clearly not expecting it. His expression shifts from calm authority to genuine confusion as he leans forward slightly, trying to figure out what just went wrong. Garen finally comes to a stop, sitting there on the ground, looking completely lost. He scratches his head, still processing why everyone else disappeared and he didn't. Uma keeps watching, now more curious than anything, silently wondering why this little guy can't seem to use the transfer point like the others. The scene cuts. Now on the 77th floor, the portal flashes again, and Theo, Kwon, and the two Minotaurs step out from the glowing light. The transition is quick, but the environment is completely different. Heat hits immediately. They're standing in what looks like a desert city, dry air, sun beating down, sand stretching out between structures. Theo takes the lead right away, moving forward while reminding everyone that Chairman Park is somewhere on this floor. As they walk, he pulls out the compass, checking it carefully while keeping his pace steady. Behind him, the female Minotaur wipes sweat out and already complains about how unbearably hot it is. They keep moving, until they suddenly stop. A massive gorilla steps into their path, blocking the way completely. The tension spikes immediately. Theo's eyes flick around for a second, and that's when he notices Garen isn't with them. Before he can react to that, more movement. Two more gorillas appear, forming a group of three. They loom over the team, cracking their knuckles, clearly ready for trouble. One of them demands to know where they came from, voice low and aggressive. Kwon, completely unfazed, just looks up at them and asks in the most innocent way possible if they've seen his papa. The lead gorilla doesn't even answer properly. Instead, he leans forward slightly, sniffing the air, and his expression changes into something greedy. He mutters that they smell good. Theo quickly steps in, trying to smooth things over. He introduces himself calmly as a traveling merchant of the tower, clearly aiming to avoid a fight. But the gorilla cuts him off mid-sentence, raising his voice and declaring that they'll just hand them over to the tribe chief. And then, he lunges. Fast. Theo doesn't even get time to react properly. He just lets out a sharp, startled scream as the attack comes in. But before it lands, impact. Both Minotaurs step forward at the same time. Their punches connect almost instantly, each strike heavy and precise. The force sends the attacking gorillas flying backward like they weigh nothing, bodies lifted clean off the ground. The movement is so fast it barely registers. One of the remaining gorillas freezes, staring in disbelief as his companion is launched through the air. The lead gorilla is now visibly shaken, sweat starts forming as the confidence drains out of him. Then, a voice cuts in. Cold, impatient. It demands the same question again, this time with zero tolerance. The Minotaurs step forward, their presence completely dominating the space now. Their eyes glow faintly, their massive frames casting long shadows over the gorillas. Even Theo, standing behind them, looks slightly uneasy at how intense they suddenly feel. At the very front, though, Kwon steps forward, small compared to everyone else, but completely steady. He looks up at the gorillas, face set with pure determination, and asks again, clear, direct, no hesitation, have they seen his papa or not?
Like, share.
Kwon stands right in the middle of the village square with Theo and the two Minotaurs beside him, staring down a gorilla who suddenly looks way less confident than before. Kwon looks up at him with those big innocent eyes and asks the same question he's been asking everyone. Have you seen my papa? The gorilla immediately panics, his whole face tightens, and he starts stuttering out a rushed answer, loudly insisting that he hasn't seen anyone at all. Theo blinks in surprise at how suspicious that sounded, but Kwon catches it instantly. He narrows his eyes, grips his wooden club tighter, and bluntly calls him out for lying. Then, before anyone can react, Kwon jumps. Straight up. With an angry shout, he swings his club down in a fierce overhead strike and smacks the gorilla directly on the head while yelling that he never even described what his papa looked like yet. The hit sends the gorilla crashing face first into the stone ground. Completely out cold, Theo immediately starts sweating. He throws his paws up in panic and yells that there was absolutely no need to hit the guy like that. Meanwhile, Kwon lands calmly beside the unconscious gorilla and proudly declares, club still raised, that liars deserve spanking. That entire scene causes instant chaos in the village. Voices start shouting from every direction, demanding to know who dared to cause trouble there. Kwon and Theo both freeze for a second as a massive shadow suddenly falls over the plaza. Thud! A huge armored figure lands on top of the village wall, towering over everyone with a giant wooden club resting at his side. The entire square goes quiet. It's Goran, the gorilla chieftain, the boss of the 77th floor. He stands there staring down at them with a hard, serious expression, looking every bit like the kind of monster you don't casually pick fights with. Except Kwon doesn't care at all. The little bear steps right up to the front again and loudly repeats his question. Have you seen my papa? Goran's face immediately darkens. He grips his enormous wooden club tightly, veins bulging as anger rises in his voice. He roars that they dared bully his people inside their own territory. Then, he jumps. The massive gorilla launches himself straight off the wall with terrifying force, raising his giant weapon high above his head as he screams that he'll crush them. The attack comes down fast, but the male Minotaur reacts instantly. He steps forward and intercepts the blow head-on. Boom! The collision sends a shockwave exploding through the plaza, rattling the stone streets beneath them. Then the female minotaur rushes in from his blind spot. Her fist shoots toward his side with incredible speed. At the last possible second, Goran ducks low, barely avoiding the punch. Before sliding backward across the stone ground, he catches himself in a crouch, glaring up at them in disbelief. His eyes narrow as he realizes these aren't ordinary opponents. He mutters in shock about their power and speed, asking if they came down from the upper floors. The female minotaur casually explains that they didn't come there looking for a fight. That makes Goran pause. His grip loosens slightly. The anger on his face shifts into suspicion instead as he slowly stands back up, muttering thoughtfully that maybe that's true. Then suddenly, he changes stance. Goran pulls out a massive wooden fan, holding it behind him while gathering strength. Theo's eyes widen as he blurts out in confusion, asking what that thing even is. Goran answers by roaring for them to get out of his territory, and then he swings. One swing. That's all it takes. A monstrous gust of wind explodes outward instantly, ripping across the village with overwhelming force. The air twists violently, and within seconds, the blast becomes a full tornado. The minotaurs get swept away first, spinning helplessly through the storm alongside flying vegetables and debris. Theo gets caught immediately after. He screams in pure terror, tears flying from his eyes while getting tossed around inside the tornado like laundry. Even random vegetables are flying through the air beside him. Far above the village, their voices start fading into the distance. A tiny desperate meow echoes from the sky as the entire group disappears like shooting stars blasting off into the horizon. Back on the ground, Goran folds his fan shut with a smug little huff. He casually mutters that they weren't anything special after all. Then, he notices someone still standing there. Kwon, the little bear somehow resisted the tornado completely. Goran stares at him in surprise. But Kwon isn't focused on the fight anymore. He's standing there clutching his wooden club with tears forming in his eyes. His voice trembles as he sadly mutters about his brothers and sisters. Goran just blinks in confusion, having absolutely no idea what's happening emotionally right now. Then Kwon looks down at the ground and finally reveals the true tragedy. His snacks are gone. The tornado blew them away too. The betrayal in his face is devastating. Meanwhile, Goran completely misunderstands the situation. Instead of seeing an emotionally destroyed child mourning snacks, he sees a tiny warrior who withstood his ultimate attack through sheer strength. Slowly, respect begins forming in his eyes. He lifts his massive wooden beam onto his shoulder and admits that Kwon may be small, but he's clearly extraordinary. Fueled by warrior pride now, Goran charges forward with a huge battle cry, yelling that he'll fight seriously this time. Kwon slowly raises his club. A dark, dangerous aura starts radiating from his tiny body. His expression hardens into a furious pout. You're bad. Goran swings first. His gigantic beam crashes downward in a blinding flash, but Kwon stops it. Effortlessly, the tiny wooden club blocks the massive strike dead in place. The impact shock alone sends cracks through the ground. Goran's eyes widen so hard a shocked yell bursts out of him. His full power attack did absolutely nothing. Then Kwon changes. His eyes begin glowing with fierce white light as his body enlarges, power swelling around him. Now he's glaring directly at Goran with pure rage. Not because of the attack, not because of the village, but because of the snacks. In a low terrifying growl, Kwon declares that Goran is even worse than a liar. Then he swings. Crack. Kwon's club smashes upward with overwhelming force, instantly shattering Goran's massive wooden weapon into splinters. Before Goran can even react, wham! Kwon's gigantic club slams directly into his head. The gorilla chieftain crashes hard onto the ground, completely knocked unconscious. Silence. Kwon stands over him, still gripping his club tightly while his enlarged form slowly shrinks back down. He pants heavily through his nose, cheeks puffed slightly in anger as he glares at the defeated gorilla below. Meanwhile, Goran lies flat on his back with a gigantic steaming bump sticking out from the top of his head. Sejun is completely lost right now. Sweat drips down the side of his face beneath his straw hat as he awkwardly looks around, trying to process the insane situation he somehow ended up in. Sitting on a rough stone throne with Bat perched on his arm holding bananas like some royal assistant, Sejun slowly mutters, "So, what exactly happened here?" And the moment he asks that, the monkeys below him bow even lower. An entire crowd of monkeys is literally prostrating themselves at his feet like he's some legendary king. The monkey chief kneels at the front with his forehead pressed to the ground. His voice trembles as he desperately explains their situation. According to him, their tribe has been suffering for a long time because of a horrible drought. The scene shifts upward toward the sky. The monkey chief explains they haven't seen proper rain in ages. Not even a single cloud passed overhead recently. The entire tribe has been slowly starving. Then the chief carefully pulls out an old stone tablet and explains that even during the drought, the tribe continued protecting an ancient prophecy passed down through generations. The tablet reveals a strange carving etched into the stone. The chief then reads the final line of the prophecy out loud. One day, a strange-looking tailless monkey carrying bananas would appear and save their tribe from the drought. Sejun immediately said, "I'm not strange-looking, and I'm definitely not a monkey," but the monkey chief ignores that completely. Instead, he bows even harder and starts begging Sejun to save them. The mood instantly shifts again as the chief hurriedly orders his tribe to bring out their special treats for the chosen savior. A smaller monkey carefully walks forward carrying a giant leaf platter filled with food offerings. The little guy bows politely before presenting it to Sejun. On the platter are slices of dried yellow fruit alongside a pile of tiny brown seeds. Sejun blinks at it. "Huh? What's this?" Still confused, he picks up one of the yellow slices and thanks them before trying it. Beside him, Bat happily points out how differently the monkeys are treating them now compared to earlier when they were literally trapped in cages. Sejun tosses the slice into his mouth and starts chewing. Then his eyes widened. It's dried mango, and it's actually really good. Sweet, chewy, and packed with flavor. Surprised, Sejun looks down at the pile of seeds beside it and asks if watermelon seeds are seriously considered a luxury food here. The monkey chief clenches his fists in frustration before explaining the situation. Before the drought, their tribe used to survive on fresh fruits, bananas, mangoes, watermelon, all kinds of things. But once the drought started, everything disappeared. As he talks, tears begin forming in his eyes while he remembers the old days. That part catches Sejun's attention immediately. Wait, those fruits exist on the 77th floor? That realization changes things. The monkeys stare up at him silently now, clinging to hope. And after thinking for a moment, Sejun suddenly smiles confidently. With one tiny monkey cheering from atop his straw hat, he firmly declares that he'll make the prophecy come true. Sunlight barely squeezes through the thick canopy overhead, leaving long shadows everywhere. Theo peeks nervously from behind a giant tree root covered in leaves while trembling slightly. "I seriously thought I was going to die." He finally stumbles out onto an open dirt path, still shaken from getting launched away earlier. Then reality hits him again. Everyone got separated. Theo slows down and grips the golden compass tightly in his paws. His expression hardens as he tries to focus. There's no helping it now. He just has to trust everyone survived and find Sherman Park first. But despite saying that, Theo still looks absolutely terrified. He glances around nervously while muttering that the place somehow feels spooky even under the blazing sun. Then suddenly, a spark flashes across his eyes. Theo freezes. Something reacts. He slowly raises his front paw while holding up the compass with the other. A bright yellow aura begins pulsing around his paw. Far in the distance, a huge rocky mountain towers into the sky. Theo's glowing paw points directly toward it. My front paw is reacting strongly to that mountain. For a second, curiosity almost takes over. But Theo immediately shakes his head and regains focus. No distractions. Finding Sejun comes first. Clutching the compass tightly, Theo steels himself and quietly hopes everyone else is safe too. Elsewhere on the floor, a portal suddenly opens. Iona steps out alongside the giant bear, immediately getting hit by the suffocating heat of the 77th floor. But before they can even react properly, Iona suddenly squeaks in shock. The bear peeks past her curiously, and both of them freeze. Right there on the stone pavement lies Goran, completely flattened. The mighty gorilla chief is sprawled out unconscious like he got hit by a truck. The bear immediately rushes over and starts using green healing magic on him while Iona stares in disbelief. Who in the world managed to beat someone this strong? After a moment, Goran groans and slowly wakes up. Still dizzy, he explains that a group of strange troublemakers showed up and beat him senseless despite him trying to protect his family. Iona looks genuinely stunned hearing that. Then Goran weakly warns them to watch out for a black bull and a red bear. The moment he says that, sweat immediately forms on Iona's face, because she already knows exactly who he's talking about. Then suddenly, the sky darkens. Heavy storm clouds begin rolling overhead. And Goran instantly panics. Apparently his daughter hates dark weather. The bear looks completely confused while Goran frantically searches around in despair. His giant fan is broken. And without it, he can't blow away the clouds anymore. Looking up at the darkening sky, Goran quietly wonders if his daughter has been crying more lately because of all this gloomy weather. The emotional damage is hitting this man hard. Then he throws his arms upward and roars that he's too weak to protect his family. The bear sweats awkwardly while Iona just watches silently. Then suddenly, a glowing hand rises toward the sky. "Rain down!" The command echoes through the jungle. And instantly, rain crashes down from the heavens. A massive downpour drenches the entire area within seconds. Tiny monkeys immediately explode with joy. They start dancing wildly through the rain while cheering loudly around Sejun, who stands there proudly in his straw hat like he just performed a miracle. "Park Sejun, Park Sejun. The monkeys chant his name non-stop while running circles around him. Sejun laughs proudly with his hands on his hips, completely enjoying the moment. And from the edge of the jungle, Theo slowly steps into the rain holding the compass. He stares at the bizarre monkey celebration in complete silence, absolutely bewildered by what he's looking at. Subscribe. Comment. Rain pours steadily over the monkey village as Sejun stands there in his straw hat, actually enjoying the cool weather for once. Around him, monkeys dance and cheer in celebration after finally getting rain again. The whole place feels alive with excitement, but the peaceful moment doesn't last long. Two monkey guards suddenly rush forward with spears in hand, looking alarmed as they point their weapons ahead and aggressively demand to know. Sejun flinches in confusion, with a confused little "ha." Theo immediately panics. Holding his compass defensively, the traveling cat merchant hurriedly introduces himself, practically yelling that he's the tower's wandering merchant and not an enemy. Before things escalate, Sejun quickly steps in between them and raises a hand to stop the guards. He tells them to wait because Theo is his friend. The second Theo hears that, his eyes instantly turn watery with relief. His whole face lights up as he cries out President Park, in the most emotional voice possible. Without hesitation, Theo launches himself straight into Sejun's arms while Bat flutters happily nearby. Sejun catches him with a soft smile, clearly relieved to finally see a familiar face after all the chaos. He asks Theo how he even ended up here on the 77th floor in the first place. Still comfortably snuggled in Sejun's arms, Theo explains everything while holding up the special compass Kaiser gave him. He says he used it to track Sejun down and came together with Kwon and two minotaurs. But then things went completely wrong after some gorilla chief swung a giant fan one time and blasted everybody away in different directions. Sejun's expression immediately changes in shock after hearing that everyone got separated. At the same time, one tiny monkey clings tightly onto Sejun's leg while one of the monkey guards explains that the one responsible was definitely Gorin, the chief of the gorilla tribe. Theo finally starts calming down as Sejun gently pats his head, telling him he's really been through a lot. Theo instantly melts into the affection, practically purring from happiness. Nearby, Bat nervously asks what they should do now. Sejun hums thoughtfully for a moment, trying to organize the situation in his head. Then he suddenly calls over a group of monkeys and says he needs their help. The monkeys react instantly like loyal followers answering a king's command. They eagerly tell him to just give the order. Sejun explains that two of his friends, a black bull and a red bear, are somewhere on this floor, and he asks the monkeys to spread out and search for them. The monkeys immediately scatter in every direction without wasting even a second. Theo, now sitting comfortably in Sejun's arms, suddenly looks curious and asks the obvious question that's been bothering him this whole time. How exactly did Sejun become the god of the monkeys? Sejun just grins and casually says he has his ways. Right after that, a system notification appears. It explains that the monkeys illegally occupying the farm have now officially agreed to follow Sejun after a friendly negotiation. Because of that, the ownership dispute is resolved. Sejun is recognized as the proper landowner, and a new skill called Farmland Information LV Max activates. Sejun quietly acknowledges the notification and checks the information window. A huge overview screen appears in front of him. The farm is revealed to be around 20,000 pyong in size, and just for reference, 1 pyong equals about 35.58 square feet. The farm contains over 5,000 banana trees, but there's one massive problem. The system states that almost all the banana trees are sick and dying. Worse, they only have around 30 days left before completely withering away. The only upside is that there are now 749 monkeys available as workers. Sejun looks out across the enormous banana plantation stretching through the jungle while Theo sits nearby with Bat and the little monkey watching him closely. Despite the terrible condition of the farm, Sejun confidently declares that they're going to bring the trees back to life. He walks up to one of the banana trees and places his hand against the rough trunk. A notification immediately appears saying the banana tree is sick and lacks the energy needed to grow. Then another notification pops up. A brand new class quest appears before Sejun. His task is simple: give energy to the banana trees and help them overcome the disease. The reward is a new class skill called Farmer's Won't Touch, but failure means the trees die permanently. Instead of feeling pressured, Sejun gets excited immediately. He starts wondering what kind of useful farming skill he's about to unlock this time. The only problem is, how exactly is he supposed to give energy to a tree? That's when Theo confidently jumps in. With maximum self-confidence, Theo proudly announces that giving energy is actually his specialty. He dramatically raises his adorable pink paw pads like he's unveiling some legendary technique. Then he walks up to the banana tree and starts kneading the trunk with his paws while chanting motivational nonsense about his golden paw and telling the tree to stay strong. For a second, it almost looks convincing. Then Theo accidentally scratches the bark way too hard. Wood chips explode everywhere. Theo freezes in confusion. Immediately, a system notification appears saying the banana tree became irritated from the excessive stimulation and actually lost even more energy. Sejun instantly loses patience and yells at him for being an idiot. Meanwhile Theo, now sweating nervously, tries defending himself by saying President Park normally loves paw massage. That line immediately makes Sejun cough awkwardly in embarrassment because, honestly, Theo isn't completely wrong. Trying to help, Sejun awkwardly mutters that maybe the paw massage idea wasn't entirely terrible. Then Bat suddenly flies forward with sparkling eyes and suggests something wholesome instead. Why not sing a supportive song for the banana tree? Theo immediately scoffs at the idea, acting like it's obviously ridiculous. But Sejun decides to let Bat try anyway. Bat flutters beside the tree and starts singing an adorable little encouragement song telling Miss Banana Tree to stay healthy and grow lots of delicious bananas. The entire atmosphere becomes weirdly wholesome. Then everyone freezes as a new system notification appears. The peaceful singing actually restored some of the tree's energy. Theo is absolutely stunned into silence. Sejun immediately praises Bat for the successful idea while Theo cries out in disbelief at the unfairness of it all. Nearby, one little monkey happily joins the singing too, turning it into a tiny jungle concert. Now motivated, Sejun steps forward with determination shining in his eyes. Bright energy gathers around him as he activates his stimulate growth skill. The banana tree suddenly glows with magical energy from top to bottom. The little monkey nearby starts jumping around excitedly while watching the miracle happen. Another notification appears. The tree has fully recovered successfully, and as a reward, Sejun officially unlocks the class skill Farmer's Warm Touch. Sejun looks thrilled while reading the new skill description. The ability allows his touch to accelerate plant growth and slowly heal sick crops, making it absolutely perfect for restoring the farm. The little monkey beside him looks completely confused by all the complicated farming terms, but Sejun doesn't care. With Theo now resting on his shoulder and Bat fluttering excitedly nearby, Sejun raises his glowing hands with a confident smile, fully ready to heal the rest of the banana grove. Aileen is completely panicking. Tears well up in her eyes as she anxiously paces around, trying to think of what to do about Sejun. She practically cries out in frustration, asking what she's supposed to do now. That's when Kaiser's projection appears beside her. The old dragon calmly tries to soothe her, telling his lovely granddaughter to calm down first. But Aileen is way too emotional to listen properly. She immediately fires back, saying she can't calm down because she's worried sick about Sejun. Kaiser patiently reminds her that Sejun has already become much stronger than before. On top of that, all his dependable companions from the 99th floor are already searching for him. Even after hearing that, Aileen still can't relax. She lowers her head and quietly mutters, but even so, Kaiser watches her for a moment before thinking of another possible solution. Then suddenly, he comes up with an idea. He casually suggests granting Sejun another authority remotely. The moment Aileen hears the words new authority, her attention snaps toward him instantly. Kaiser explains that since Sejun already possesses the Intermediate Administrator's badge, it's possible to assign him another authority even while he's on a completely different floor. The second she hears that, Aileen wastes absolutely no time. She immediately rushes toward a pile of books and starts frantically flipping through them at terrifying speed. Books start flying everywhere while Kaiser watches in surprise, asking if she's really going to search for one right now. But then his expression becomes more serious. He warns her carefully that granting a second authority comes with consequences. He starts reminding her that from the second authority onward, but Aileen cuts him off before he can finish. Still tossing books around in desperation, she stubbornly declares there's no other choice because Sejun's safety matters more than anything else. At this point, the room basically looks like a magical tornado hit a library. Seeing her completely committed already, Kaiser immediately distances himself from responsibility, muttering that he wants no part in whatever happens next. Meanwhile, Aileen confidently insists that Sejun will understand once he realizes it's an authority capable of strengthening his indestructible body. Then suddenly, she freezes. Her eyes widen. Eileen's face instantly lights up with excitement as she finally finds the right book. Holding it up triumphantly, she proudly announces that this is the one. Blue magical energy immediately erupts around her in swirling currents. As the spell activates, Aileen quietly prays for Sejun to come back safely. Back on the 77th floor, the atmosphere couldn't be more different. Monkeys are jumping around excitedly near the restored banana trees, celebrating the fact that the grove is finally recovering. Meanwhile, Sejun looks absolutely exhausted. He bends forward slightly, catching his breath after using so much energy. Theo, Bat, and one nearby monkey all watch him closely with concern. Wiping sweat from his face, Sejun realizes something worrying. He used almost all his magic power just restoring 10 trees. Looking out across the gigantic plantation, he wonders how long it'll take to heal the entire grove at this rate. Trying to cheer him up, Theo climbs onto Sejun's back and starts giving him a little shoulder massage while telling him to hang in there. At the same time, Bat flies circles around Sejun's head while singing encouragement songs again, desperately trying to boost morale. Sejun can't help smiling warmly at both of them. He sincerely thanks them for supporting him. Then suddenly, a bright blue magical aura bursts out from Sejun's body. The nearby monkey jumps in shock. Sejun himself looks stunned as overwhelming energy suddenly floods through him. He quickly realizes the support from his companions somehow triggered this reaction. The glowing aura intensifies further. Then a system notification appears. The tower administrator has granted a brand new authority called Strengthened Magic Circuit to Sejun's Intermediate Administrator badge. Instantly, his magic stats and recovery speed skyrocket. The exhaustion from moments ago practically disappears. Now overflowing with energy, Sejun pumps his fists excitedly while Theo nearly falls off his shoulder in surprise from the sudden mood swing. With blue energy radiating around him, Sejun proudly declares that at this rate he could probably use his skills all day long. Without wasting another second, he marches confidently toward the next dying banana tree. He stretches out his hand. Golden light explodes outward as healing energy pours directly into the tree trunk. The watching monkeys immediately erupt with excited noises. One monkey in particular stares at Sejun with sparkling eyes full of admiration. Pumping his fists excitedly, he thanks Sejun over and over again while calling him the being of prophecy. Sejun just smiles awkwardly and waves it off like it's no big deal while Theo happily rests against his shoulder. Then suddenly, ding! A sharp notification sound cuts through the moment. Sejun pauses. A blue system window appears in front of him, and immediately destroys the happy atmosphere. The notification reveals that a horrifying total of 100 million tower coins has been automatically withdrawn from Sejun's seed bank account as payment for the new authority. At the exact same moment, the sound of coins draining away echoes dramatically in the background like his soul just left his body. The cheerful mood instantly dies. Even the atmosphere feels darker as dramatic lightning crackles behind him. Sejun freezes completely. His jaw slowly drops while his brain struggles to process the number he just saw. Then he finally lets out a horrified scream of pure financial despair. Meanwhile, far away from the banana grove, the scene shifts toward a gigantic rocky mountain stretching high into the pale blue sky. At the base of the mountain lies a dark cave system. Inside the cave, Vice Master Ganoba, a large spotted hyena, and Iona carefully walk deeper underground together. Ganoba explains that this cave used to be a magic stone mine. Because countless waves of magical energy overlap here, it's supposedly the perfect hiding place for a sacred stone. As they continue deeper into the darkness, Ganoba mentions that the Magic Association is completely certain the sacred stone exists somewhere underground here. Iona listens carefully and quietly agrees. The tunnel grows darker and colder the farther they travel. Eventually, Iona raises her glowing staff to illuminate the path ahead. While walking, a thought suddenly crosses her mind. Technically, the sacred stone belongs to the Magic Association, but wouldn't it honestly be more useful if it ended up helping Mr. Sejun instead? The thought catches her off guard immediately. She vigorously shakes her head, scolding herself internally for even considering something like that as the president of the Mage Association. Looking around nervously, Iona notices something strange. Despite the burning heat outside, the air inside the cave feels unnaturally cold. The atmosphere becomes increasingly eerie. Peering deeper into the pitch-black tunnel ahead, Iona turns and asks Ganoba if he's alright. No response comes back. Iona pauses. Then she calls out again, but her voice only echoes through the massive empty cavern. Suddenly the scene cuts back near the cave entrance. There, Ganoba stands alone. A glowing red aura begins surrounding his body while his expression grows dark and grim. Sharp teeth slightly visible, Ganoba quietly apologizes to Lady Iona. Then without warning, a massive explosion of fire and light erupts behind him. The blast violently engulfs the cave entrance while Ganoba remains standing perfectly still, completely unfazed. Slowly, a menacing grin spreads across his face. His yellow eyes glow ominously in the darkness as he proudly declares that from this moment onward, he, Ganoba, is the new master of the Gravity Magic Tower.
Like, share.
Why is Sejun looking this shocked? And why is Kwon crying his eyes out? The reason is a lot crazier than you'd expect. Let's start from the beginning. Where the scene opens in the security office, an older employee lets out a long, exhausted sigh before complaining that this is honestly ridiculous. He grumbles that in all his years working there, this is the first time he's had to check security footage just because a few bananas disappeared. Usually people investigate missing treasures, artifacts, or something important, not stolen fruit. Aaron, however, isn't backing down. He cheerfully insists that it will only take a second and asks him to keep looking. The old man reluctantly rewinds the footage to the moment when Aaron was about to hand Moonlight a cup of coffee. As the recording plays, a sudden burst of golden light flashes across the screen. Aaron immediately points at the monitor and excitedly tells him that's the part he wanted to see, but unfortunately, Moonlight's head is blocking most of the view. Scratching his head in frustration, Aaron admits that Moonlight is standing right in the way, making it hard to tell what actually appeared. The old man squints at the screen for a few seconds before looking completely unconvinced. He asks what exactly he's supposed to be seeing here. Since nothing obvious appears, he casually tells him that if he's finished, he should probably get back to work. But Aaron quickly stops him. He asks him to check yesterday's footage too, promising it'll be the last request. The old man immediately starts grumbling again. He complains that he just got back from lunch, he's exhausted, and now he's making him dig through even more recordings. Aaron laughs awkwardly and quickly offers a bribe in the form of coffee, promising to buy him a cup later if he helps. That finally gets him to cooperate. The footage rewinds to the previous night. The office is completely quiet and empty. Then suddenly, that same golden light appears again. Both Aaron and the old man freeze. The old man's eyes widen as he blurts out that whatever they're looking at definitely isn't normal. He leans closer to the screen and mutters that it almost looks like something is flying around the room. Then the camera finally catches a clearer glimpse. A tiny bat-like figure darts across the office. Aaron is left speechless. Meanwhile, the old man practically jumps out of his chair. He loudly demands to know what in the world that thing is. The footage continues rolling. They watch the tiny creature swoop down, grab food from a desk, and zip away. Aaron stares at the screen and cautiously asks if that's actually a bat. Before either of them can process it, another flash of golden light erupts, and just like that, the creature vanishes, gone. Aaron and the old man slowly turn to look at each other. Neither of them has the slightest clue what they just witnessed. The old man's expression basically screams, "You dragged me here to watch a teleporting banana-stealing bat?" Back on the 77th floor, things are somehow even more chaotic. Kwon trudges along a muddy path with his shoulders slumped. The little bear looks absolutely miserable. His snacks are gone. Every single one. His stomach growls loudly as he drags his feet through the dirt, looking like he's one sad thought away from crying. Still, after a moment, he clenches his little paws. He reminds himself that he has an important mission. No matter how hungry he is, he still has to find his dad. Fired up again, Kwon raises his wooden stick high into the air and marches forward with determination. Unfortunately, something else notices him first. Behind him, a gigantic green snake silently slithers through the grass. The predator creeps closer. Then suddenly launches forward with a vicious hiss. Kwon turns around, look at it, and simply tilts his head in confusion. The snake doesn't even get time to attack. Whack! Kwon's wooden stick crashes straight into its face. The hit is so fast and so hard that the giant snake immediately collapses. It's completely senseless. Kwon casually looks down at the defeated monster and asks if it has seen his dad. The snake, naturally, is in no condition to answer. With a disappointed sigh, Kwon continues walking. Behind him, the enormous predator remains twitching helplessly on the ground. A few moments later, another hunter spots him. Hidden among the trees, a massive black panther stalks the little bear, then explodes from the shadows with a fierce roar. The panther's attack lasts approximately 1 second, maybe less. Before it can do anything, smack, Kwon swings his branch. The panther receives an express delivery straight to the face. The beast immediately crashes into the dirt. Now both the giant snake and the giant panther are lying unconscious somewhere behind him. Kwon, meanwhile, doesn't even seem to realize these were supposed to be dangerous predators. He simply turns toward the panther and politely asks whether it knows where his dad is. No answer, just another unconscious animal. At this point, Kwon finally reaches his emotional limit. His eyes begin watering, his lower lip trembles, then he starts crying. He sobs that he misses his dad. Meanwhile, the black panther lies there bruised, battered, and probably wondering why the creature that beat it up is somehow the one crying. Kwon stands alone on the path, sniffling sadly. His stomach growls again, louder this time. The hunger is becoming impossible to ignore. Then, his nose twitches. A scent drifts through the air. Kwon freezes, sniffs again. His eyes suddenly light up. The sadness disappears almost instantly. He recognizes that smell. It's something delicious. Without wasting another second, Kwon takes off running down the path as fast as his little legs can carry him. Behind him, the snake and panther remain sprawled across the dirt like casualties of an extremely one-sided misunderstanding while Kwon follows the wonderful scent deeper into the forest. The celebration continues across the banana grove. The once sick banana trees are now standing tall again, their leaves bright green and healthy. Seeing the grove restored, 2 little monkeys practically bounce with excitement. They cheer loudly and race through the trees, celebrating that the bananas have finally regained their color. Nearby, the Monkey King is overwhelmed with gratitude. He bows deeply and sincerely thanks Sejun, calling him a great black dragon who saved their tribe. Sejun immediately looks embarrassed by the praise. With a small wink and a friendly smile, he tells the Monkey King there's really no need to thank him so formally. If anything, he says, he should be thanking them instead. As he speaks, warm magical energy glows around his hands. Sejun proudly explains that healing all these banana trees helped him level up his new skill, Farmer's Warm Touch, all the way to level 3. It's a huge improvement. But then his smile twitches. He clenches his fist. His entire body trembles, not from excitement, from financial pain. While gaining a new authority was nice, losing 100 million tower coins still feels like getting stabbed directly in the wallet. The memory hits him again. His jaw tightens. His eye twitches. His soul briefly leaves his body. Eventually, he forces himself to move on. The coins are gone. Crying won't bring them back, so Sejun takes a deep breath and cheerfully announces that everyone should stop working for now, eat something good, and get some rest. Bat flutters around nearby while Theo carries a bowl full of food. A little monkey hops around excitedly as the feast is laid out. The little monkey stares in complete amazement at a table filled with steaming roasted sweet potatoes and bowls of fresh cherry tomato soup. Sejun proudly points everything out. He admits he put a lot of effort into the meal. There are beautifully grilled fish seasoned with salt and served alongside fresh vegetables and citrus slices. There are plates of spicy squid stir-fry loaded with peppers and onions. Everything smells incredible. To finish things off, Sejun dramatically drizzles golden honey over a roasted sweet potato. The little monkeys watch like they're witnessing a miracle. Sejun hands over a steaming honey-covered potato. The little monkey's eyes sparkle. It eagerly sticks out its tongue and takes a taste. Soon the entire tribe is eating. One monkey carefully blows on a hot potato before taking a bite. Another happily devours its food without a care in the world. Someone else slurps cherry tomato soup. Another monkey takes an enormous bite out of a honey-coated potato. Everywhere Sejun looks, there are happy faces. One monkey looks up in shock after tasting the soup. It asks what this incredible dish is because it's never experienced such a sweet and sour flavor before. Nearby, another monkey hugs a giant honey potato like it has found true love. It loudly declares that the food is unbelievably delicious. Then comes the spicy squid, and chaos follows. One monkey suddenly breathes out a tiny puff of fire. It starts yelling that its tongue hurts. Another monkey is nearly crying from the heat, yet despite the pain, it desperately shovels more food into its mouth while asking what kind of amazing dish this is. Apparently suffering and enjoyment are happening simultaneously. Away from the spicy battlefield, Theo enjoys life much more peacefully. He sits comfortably on the ground with a giant grilled fish and happily munches away while a nearby monkey remains completely focused on annihilating potatoes. For a while, everyone simply enjoys the meal. Then the Monkey King suddenly stands. Looking directly at Sejun, he sincerely thanks him again. Sejun pauses in the middle of eating, bowl in one hand, spoon in the other. He blinks in confusion, then something unexpected happens. The Monkey King drops to his knees. The entire monkey tribe follows. Hundreds of heads bow toward the ground. Together, they declare that from now on, their tribe will serve Sejun. The display is so intense that Sejun immediately starts sweating. He puts down his spoon and forces a nervous smile. At this rate, he feels like he's going to get indigestion before finishing dinner. Trying to calm everyone down, he gently tells them that's enough and urges them to relax and eat comfortably. The emotional moment lasts approximately 3 seconds. Then, a massive roar explodes through the area. The ground trembles. Sejun nearly drops his bowl. Theo freezes. Bat freezes. The monkeys freeze. Everyone looks around in confusion. Sejun asks what that sound was. One terrified monkey immediately grabs onto his leg. Meanwhile, the Monkey King's expression turns serious. Gritting his teeth, he announces that she has finally arrived. Heavy footsteps begin shaking the earth. Each step sounds like a boulder crashing into the ground. Then the approaching figure comes into view. The narrator introduces her as Garina, daughter of Gorin, the chief of the gorilla tribe. And she absolutely looks the part. Wearing sturdy armor and carrying herself with confidence, Garina marches forward like a one-woman army. The monkeys immediately recognize her and shout her name in alarm. But Garina isn't paying attention to them. Instead, she suddenly sniffs the air. Her eyes narrow. A grin slowly spreads across her face. She smells something delicious. The monkeys panic instantly. Several rush towards Sejun, urging him to evacuate while there's still time. Others grip their spears and bravely prepare to defend their territory. The small monkey warriors shout that this is monkey land and demand that she leave. Garina barely acknowledges them. Looking down calmly, she comments that it rained earlier. Then her expression darkens. She mutters that gloomy weather always puts her in a bad mood. And when she's in a bad mood, she craves sweets. A lot. The next moment, she flexes. Several monkeys are immediately launched into the air screaming. The defenders never even had a chance. Then Garena suddenly stops. Her nose twitches again. She has found the source. Down below, a frightened little monkey clings tightly to Sejun's leg while holding half of a sweet snack. The scent reaches Garena. Her eyes lock on target, and she charges straight toward the food. She barrels forward like a runaway train while yelling that it looks delicious. Sejun immediately starts sweating under his straw hat. He stares at the rapidly approaching gorilla and panics. She's coming directly at him. There isn't time to think. So he reacts. Throwing one arm into the air, Sejun activates his magic. Dark clouds begin gathering overhead. Energy crackles through the sky. Seeing this, Garena abruptly stops. She stares upward in confusion as thunder rumbles above. Sejun doesn't hesitate. He pours everything into his next attack. With a desperate shout, he unleashes Thunder Throw. A gigantic bolt of lightning tears through the sky and races toward Garena. The little monkey clings tightly to his leg the entire time. At the last second, Garena reacts. She slams her fist into the ground. The earth explodes. A massive slab of rock rises upward. Using it as a shield, she braces herself. Boom! The lightning crashes into the stone barrier. Electricity explodes across its surface. Dust and debris fly everywhere. Yet somehow, the shield holds. Garena survives the attack. Sejun stares in horror. His strongest move was blocked. Bat and the little monkey cling to him in terror while Sejun wonders how that's even possible. Slowly, the dust begins settling. A figure emerges from the smoke. Garena stands there completely serious. Focused. Silent. Her glowing eyes scan the area. She asks one simple question. Who was responsible for that attack? For a brief moment, everything feels tense. Dangerous. Like a real battle is about to begin. Then Garena spots Sejun. And everything breaks. Instantly, her serious expression vanishes. Hearts appear in her eyes. A bright blush spreads across her face. She looks completely love-struck. In the blink of an eye, she goes from terrifying warrior to excited fangirl, practically squealing with happiness. She asks who the strong male is that attacked her. Sejun freezes. Theo freezes. The monkeys freeze. Nobody understands what just happened. Then it gets worse. Much worse. Garena launches herself forward. Rocks explode behind her. Heart-filled eyes remain locked on Sejun. Arms spread wide, she charges straight toward him while shouting the last thing he ever expected to hear. She wants to marry him. Sejun's face drains of color. Cold sweat pours down his forehead. A flash of lightning illuminates the background as the horrifying reality sinks in. Moments ago he thought he was about to fight a powerful enemy. Now he's pretty sure he's in even bigger trouble.
Like, share.
Just when Sejun thinks his situation couldn't possibly get any worse, Garena comes charging straight at him with hearts practically exploding out of her eyes. She's completely serious about her proposal too. Theo and a little monkey instantly realize this is a disaster and scramble out of the way, while Sejun freezes in pure panic. He throws both hands up defensively and desperately shouts for her to stop. But Garena isn't slowing down at all. She keeps rushing forward with terrifying enthusiasm. Out of nowhere, a large red blur comes spinning down from above. Then, wham! Before anyone can react, Kwon drops from the sky and swings his wooden club with all his strength directly into Garena's forehead. The impact is massive. Garena's eyes spin immediately as she stumbles backward, completely dazed from the unexpected hit. For a second, Sejun can only stare. He's too shocked to even process what just happened. Theo, on the other hand, recognizes the newcomer instantly and excitedly announces that their little bear hero has finally arrived. Meanwhile, Kwon lands safely on the ground, gripping his club proudly. The little bear raises it high above his head with a huge grin plastered across his face. Mission accomplished. He finally found them. The moment Sejun sees him, his face lights up. He immediately opens his arms and happily calls Kwon over. Kwon doesn't need a second invitation. He charges forward at full speed while Theo, Bat, and the nearby monkeys watch. Sejun scoops him up into a warm hug. For a brief moment, everything feels peaceful. Sejun closes his eyes and smiles softly while holding his adorable companion. Unfortunately, Kwon is a little too excited. The little bear squeezes Sejun with all his strength. An emergency system notification immediately pops up as Sejun's indestructible body authority activates to keep him from getting crushed. Theo, Bat, and the monkey all panic while Kwon remains completely unaware that his hug nearly became a lethal attack. Still excited, Kwon proudly holds up several yellow mangoes. He happily explains how delicious they are. Nearby, a group of monkeys bow respectfully before him. After all, this tiny bear just knocked out the terrifying arena with a single swing. To them, he's practically a legendary warrior. Kwon simply smiles and tells everyone that the monkeys are their friends. Theo, casually holding a fish skeleton from his snack, asks an important question. If Kwon didn't have a compass, how did he manage to find them all the way here? Kwon cheerfully reveals the answer. He followed the smell, specifically, the smell of Sejun's honey potatoes. Theo immediately accepts that explanation because honestly, it sounds exactly like Kwon. Sejun then asks whether Kwon came all the way to the 77th floor because he was worried about him. Theo grins and points out that Kwon has always been ridiculously good at tracking down delicious food. Sejun kneels down and picks up the little bear again. This time, he smiles warmly and praises Kwon for being so dependable. Kwon giggles happily. It's a wholesome moment, for about 3 seconds. Then Sejun tries lifting him properly. Crack! A sharp sound echoes from his back. Sejun immediately lets out a strained cry. Kwon just looks at him innocently. The little bear has absolutely no idea what happened. Meanwhile, Sejun realizes a horrifying truth. Kwon has gotten incredibly heavy. Years of enthusiastic eating are finally catching up to him. Another system notification appears, confirming that his indestructible body authority activated once again to save his poor spine. Nearby, Theo continues snacking on his fish like none of this is unusual. He casually asks whether they're heading back to the 99th floor now. Sejun looks out across the vast banana farm. Rows upon rows of healthy green trees stretch across the landscape. After a moment, he shakes his head. They can't leave yet. They haven't even restored half of the farm. Pointing toward the flourishing grove, Sejun declares that the banana farm on the 77th floor belongs to him now. Since it's his responsibility, he's going to restore every last tree. A small monkey happily climbs onto his shoulder. The monkey's cheerful expression mirrors Sejun's own. Sejun gently pets the little guy while explaining that he also wants to live up to the expectations the monkeys have placed on him. Then he smiles at everyone and asks if they should give it everything they've got and continue restoring the farm. Everyone seems ready. Then suddenly, boom! A deafening explosion shakes the entire area. The ground trembles violently beneath their feet. Sejun and others look completely stunned. Still holding the small monkey on his shoulder, Sejun quickly turns toward the source of the sound and asks what just happened. Theo immediately stands upright. His merchant instincts kick in at once. In the distance, a towering mountain rises into the sky. A thick column of dark smoke is pouring upward from it. Theo stares at it seriously and reports that the explosion came from that mountain. The shockwave was so powerful that even his paws reacted to it. The scene shifts back to Iona, and things are not looking great. She's floating inside a protective purple sphere of spatial magic, gripping her staff tightly while staring around in disbelief. The mine has completely collapsed. For a moment, she just processes what happened. Thankfully, her spatial isolation magic activated in time and protected her from being crushed. Without it, she would have been in serious trouble. Even so, something doesn't sit right with her. Iona starts thinking through the possibilities. Maybe the abandoned mine collapsed because of unstable magic stones left underground. That would make sense. But then another possibility creeps into her mind. Her expression slowly darkens. A bead of sweat runs down her face. What if Ganoba caused this on purpose? The thought immediately makes her uneasy. Still, there isn't much she can do about it right now. Whether it was an accident or betrayal, she's currently trapped at the very bottom of a dangerous abandoned mine. Her first priority is finding a way out. Then suddenly, a massive blue flash erupts right in front of her. The light is so intense that Iona instinctively shields her eyes and lets out a startled squeak. The entire cavern becomes flooded with brilliant blue light. Holding her staff high, she forces herself to focus. Despite the overwhelming brightness, she can feel something. A presence, a powerful one. The energy radiating from below doesn't feel like ordinary magic. It feels alive. As the light settles, a glowing blue crystal comes into view. The strange stone hovers in midair while releasing heavy waves of magical power. A booming voice echoes throughout the cavern. The mysterious being sounds annoyed. Very annoyed. It complains about sensing warmth nearby and makes it clear that it does not appreciate living creatures entering its presence. Iona immediately feels the pressure. Blue energy beams begin pouring from the crystal. The temperature drops instantly. She grips her staff harder, struggling to maintain her footing inside the spatial barrier. The cold is overwhelming. Not ordinary cold. The kind of cold that only comes from something absurdly powerful. The crystal finally reveals its identity. It is the legendary Holy Stone. And apparently, it has a very inflated opinion of itself. The crystal declares that it is the great ice cube and takes personal offense to anything warm existing near it. Then it attacks. A deafening command rings out. Everything should freeze. An enormous torrent of icy blue energy blasts downward toward Iona. The freezing power slams into her barrier. Iona groans under the pressure but refuses to give an inch. Gritting her teeth, she channels more mana through her staff. If the crystal wants a contest of magic, she's more than willing to provide one. With a sharp command, she unleashes her dimension shield. Pink and blue spatial energy explodes outward. The cavern fills with swirling magical currents. Then the situation flips completely. A glowing pink cube suddenly forms around the holy stone. The crystal freezes. Not literally, emotionally. It did not expect that, at all. Now the legendary ice cube finds itself trapped inside a magical box. Meanwhile, Iona floats comfortably inside her own shield and studies the artifact with growing interest. Realizing what she's looking at, she remarks that it's actually a fragment of a star. The crystal immediately starts protesting. It demands to know whether she seriously believes such a simple prison can contain it. Then it launches into a grand speech. According to itself, it was born alongside the creation of the universe. It is the supreme ruler of cold. The absolute ice cube. The greatest being ever. Unfortunately for the crystal, Iona is not impressed. The pink barrier starts tightening. Slowly, deliberately, the crystal immediately begins complaining. Loudly. Iona smirks. Then she delivers the most disrespectful response possible. Instead of treating it like a legendary cosmic artifact, she casually describes it as basically an ancient rock filled with outdated magic. The holy stone looks personally offended. Iona continues anyway. Holding her staff confidently, she explains that magic hasn't remained stagnant all these years. It evolved. Countless generations of mages refined it, improved it, and pushed it further. Compared to modern magic, this ancient relic is operating with technology from another era. Then she tightens the barrier even more. The crystal lets out an agonized scream. The mighty ruler of cold is suddenly having a very bad day. Iona calmly informs it that modern magic has advanced far beyond anything it could have imagined. The pressure keeps increasing. The crystal finally breaks. Completely. Gone is the arrogant cosmic overlord. Now it's a panicking blue rock sweating bullets. The holy stone desperately begs her to stop. It promises it understands. It gets it now. Please stop squeezing. Floating above it with an extremely satisfied grin, Iona lets out a smug little laugh. Then she officially announces that the ice cube now belongs to her. The crystal gasps in pure horror. Far away from the mine, two minotaurs continue searching through the dense jungle. The male minotaur is already exhausted. Sweat pours down his face as he struggles to keep up. Meanwhile, the female minotaur keeps moving forward and calls for him to hurry up so they can stay together. The poor guy tries his best but clearly isn't enjoying the pace. As they run, the female minotaur glances toward a distant rocky mountain. The huge explosion they saw earlier came from that direction. Worry fills her expression. She hopes Theo, Kwon, and everyone else are safe. Then suddenly, a loud rumble echoes across the jungle. Both minotaurs immediately turn toward the sound. Their eyes widen. Dark smoke is now billowing from the peak of the mountain. The sight is alarming enough that both of them panic. The male minotaur instantly jumps to the worst possible conclusion. He clutches his head and screams that the volcano is erupting. The female minotaur stares at the mountain in disbelief. The male minotaur immediately starts yelling that they need to run. Fast. Right now. But before he can bolt, the female minotaur grabs his shoulder. Something else caught her attention. The male minotaur can't believe she's distracted at a time like this. He practically shouts at her, asking what could possibly be more important than escaping a volcanic eruption. She points ahead. Something shiny is flying toward them. Fast. Very fast. High above them, Iona streaks through the sky wrapped in a brilliant blue aura. In one hand she holds the captured holy stone. The male minotaur looks up, then he starts panicking again. A new problem has appeared. Whatever is flying toward them is approaching at terrifying speed. A second later, Iona crashes directly toward him. Thankfully, his reflexes kick in. He catches the incoming projectile safely in both hands. Looking down, he freezes. Nestled in his palms is a tiny cloaked hamster. His eyes go wide. He immediately recognizes her. Before he can finish speaking, an icy chill shoots through his hands. The holy stone's freezing energy is still leaking out. The male minotaur yelps and drops her instantly. The female minotaur finally recognizes the tiny mage too. Shocked, she blurts out Iona's name. Meanwhile, Iona simply floats there inside her glowing blue aura. She tilts her head slightly, confused by all the commotion, while the stunned minotaurs stare at her and wonder how she ended up here. Sejun stood looking toward the distant mountain, where dark smoke continued to rise into the sky. The sudden tremors from earlier were still fresh in everyone's mind, and even he looked a little unsettled. Around him, a few small monkeys hurried across the cracked ground, clearly nervous after feeling the shaking. After thinking about it for a moment, Sejun let out a small sigh and figured it was probably just the warning signs of a volcanic eruption somewhere far away. One of the monkeys quickly tried to reassure him. The monkey explained that the volcano was extremely far from their territory, so even if it really erupted, it shouldn't affect them here. That helped calm things down a little. Meanwhile, Theo stood nearby staring toward the mountain with a confused look. He couldn't stop wondering why his paws had reacted so strongly to that place in the first place. Whatever was over there felt strange, and the fact that his instincts reacted so intensely made him even more suspicious. Still, there wasn't much they could do about it right now. Sejun pushed the thought aside and turned back toward the banana grove with a bright smile. Work came first. Behind him, Kwon happily munched on a banana while Bat fluttered nearby. Theo and one of the little monkeys also watched as Sejun prepared to continue restoring the farm. Walking up to a cluster of sick banana trees, Sejun planted his feet firmly and took a deep breath. Then he got to work. Golden light suddenly burst from both of his hands. He pressed his palms against the thick trunks, channeling his power directly into the trees. Warm energy flowed through the bark and spread upward into the giant leaves overhead. The entire grove seemed to glow. Theo's eyes widened. A little monkey beside him stared with complete amazement. Unable to contain himself, Theo excitedly asked if Sejun could now use the skill with both hands at the same time. Sejun grinned proudly. He explained that his mana capacity had increased and that he had become much more proficient with the skill. Right on cue, a glowing system notification appeared, confirming that his farmer's one-touch skill had reached level 3. Sejun looked extremely pleased with himself. Feeling confident, he clapped his hands together and declared that if things continued like this, he would simply restore the rest of the farm the same way. Unfortunately, he didn't even get to finish the sentence. A frantic voice suddenly interrupted him. Someone came running toward them at full speed. The monkey was completely panicked. Breathing heavily, he shouted that there was a huge problem. Sejun immediately froze. The monkey frantically explained that terrifying invaders had appeared. Not only that, they were supposedly even worse than Garena. According to him, these newcomers were far beyond anything the monkeys could possibly handle. Deep, ominous sounds seemed to echo in the background as tension filled the air. Sejun immediately started sweating. At this point, he looked genuinely exhausted by all the unexpected disasters. With a nervous expression, he wondered what it could possibly be this time. Meanwhile, Kwon simply stood there holding his banana and looking completely innocent. Then the supposed invaders finally appeared. And instead of enemies, 2 familiar minotaurs walked into view. The giant pair calmly raised their hands and quickly explained that they had no intention of fighting. The monkeys were absolutely stunned. Several of them dropped their damaged spears right onto the ground. They had already tried attacking these giants earlier, yet they hadn't even managed to leave a scratch on them. Seeing the newcomers, Kwon immediately lit up. Happily waving, he shouted greetings to his minotaur brother and sister. Sejun recognized them as well and called out to Ox 3 and Ox 4. The male minotaur explained that they had followed the trail of Sejun's energy all the way to the monkey territory. Hearing the commotion, Theo and Bat hurried over. Kwon bounced around excitedly, thrilled to see everyone together again. Then Theo noticed something else. His jaw practically hit the floor. Floating safely in the minotaur's hands was Iona. The tiny hamster was perfectly fine. Not only that, she was holding a sparkling blue crystal. Iona laughed softly and commented on what an unbelievable coincidence it was that they all ran into each other here. The female minotaur happily scooped Kwon up into the air and celebrated the fact that he was safe. Seeing everyone reunited brought a genuine smile to Sejun's face. He looked sincerely happy. After hopping down, Iona approached him and held out the glowing crystal. Curious, Sejun asked what exactly she was carrying. Iona proudly lifted the brilliant gemstone higher. With obvious excitement, she explained that it was a very special item. In fact, she believed it was the perfect gift for the tower's administrator. Then she revealed its name, the Holy Stone, Ice Cube. The moment she presented it, blue system notifications immediately began appearing one after another. The messages announced that Iona, now recognized as the master of the Gravity Magic Tower, had officially transferred ownership of the Holy Stone, Ice Cube. The transfer met all required conditions. The notifications continued. Then the final message appeared. Ownership had been successfully transferred. Sejun was now the official owner of the Holy Stone. For a moment, he completely froze. His eyes widened. His mouth hung slightly open. A brilliant blue light erupted between his hands as the crystal floated before him. Even the little monkey sitting on his shoulder could only stare in amazement at the incredible artifact now resting in Sejun's possession.